Hey, good evening. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's see. First off, a round of applause for Sam Bonduck and Joseph Campbell for Prelude Music. As always, Miss Susan Miyamoto in the back for helping put all this together. Head, and we have Carrie Lewis of Baha'i of Temecula, and providing our invocation this evening, and we have Councilmember Marianne Edwards for our flag salute.
Prayer for America. O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it has aspired to material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby most glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy infinite bounty and bestowals.
Would you please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Comitrera.
Here.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Nagar.
Evening.
Mayor Ron.
I am here. All right, first up, we have presentation of Certificate of Recognition to Battalion Chief Vince O'Neill. Oh, where is Vince? Oh, there you are. Aww. Oh, look at you. Come on up to the podium, sir. Battalion Chief Vince O'Neill. City of Temecula is proud to recognize Battalion Chief Vince O'Neill on his retirement from CAL FIRE and the City of Temecula. Battalion Chief O'Neill began his fire service career in 1980 as a seasonal firefighter in the Madera Mariposa Unit, assigned to the Coarse Gold Forest Fire Station. Chief O'Neill has participated in several committees and working groups, including Governor Davis's statewide Management, Labor, Work, and Family Advisory Committee and CAL FIRE's Personal Protective Equipment Committee. Battalion Chief O'Neill returned to Riverside Unit in July of 2013, where he has served as Battalion Chief for Jurupa Valley, Moreno Valley, and City of Temecula. We congratulate Battalion Chief Vince O'Neill on his many accomplishments during a very long and distinguished career with CAL FIRE. And Vince, we thank you so much for all your contributions to the City of Temecula and our state of California.
Thank you very much.
Do you have anything to say for us?
I do. It's very humbling to receive such recognition, but it's always been a pleasure working and living here in the City of Temecula. Temecula, I want to thank you, Mayor Ron, the City Council. You guys have always been dedicated and committed to public safety. I look back at my career and time living here in town, and I remember you guys have always been innovative. You were one of the first cities here in the Riverside County Fire Department to have paramedics on a squad, then paramedics on an engine, have MDCs, and then 4-person engine. I do thank you for all your dedication and commitment to the fire service. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Nagar.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention your distinguished service on the school board. How many terms did you do?
I did 2 terms on the school board. 8 years.
On the school board as well. Consummate public service servant. I congratulate you and God bless in the future.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, and I'm assuming all of the folks in the back of the room are here to recognize this event as well.
We're just here to make sure that city chambers are safe.
Absolutely.
The babies are crying because you're retiring. Here you go. Can we make sure we get a picture? There it is up there. Let's turn this way. That's what we can be certain. Here you go. All right.
All right.
Young to retire.
And Vince, this is the most relaxed I've ever seen you. I think, you know, it is, right? You're there. Well, congratulations, and again, can't thank you enough for all your service. All right, let's see. We are moving on to public comments. Total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address City Council on items that appear within the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If the speaker chooses to address the City Council on an item listed on the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda, a request to speak form may be filled out and filed with the City Clerk prior to the City Council addressing public comments and consent calendar. Once speaker is called to speak, please come forward, state your name for the record. For all public hearing or council business items on the regular agenda, request to speak form may be filled out with the City Clerk prior to City Council addressing that item. Each speaker in that case would be limited to 5 minutes. Do we have any public speakers, Ms. City Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, on non-agendized items, we have 4 public speakers. On consent, we have 30 speakers under 6 and 1 speaker under 18. Mr. Mayor, my recommendation would be to call up the non-agendized speakers first.
Okay.
So the first non-agendized speaker is Steve Geyer, to be followed by Rick Rice.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Geyer. I lived in Temecula for the last 6 years with my wife. We also have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren living in Temecula. And my purpose in the comments tonight are basically driven by the summer camp schedule that the school or the city provides, a very lengthy catalog of lots of choices. And my wife and myself have tried to help our daughters choose classes that are going to help their kids to get through summer, which we obviously all tried to do. My complaint is that the programs that we would really like our kids to be participant in are very expensive, especially the ones that are addressed towards science. And some of these classes for a 4-day, 3-hour session are $135 a week, which I would doubt the majority of parents in Temecula that live paycheck to paycheck cannot afford this. I would love to have my grandkids go to all 7 of the issued super summer camps for science, but we don't have that kind of funds. And based on the 2 classes we've been able to sign our kids up for, there's been 15 to 20 kids, which at $135 is $2,000 to $2,500 the city is collecting per class, which I don't see how that could be justified. So if something can be done in the future, obviously this year's gone, but I think we want all of our kids to be worrying about science as opposed to sitting in front of a television playing video games. Or if they can't play sports, then there's got to be other things for them to do. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The next speaker is Rick Rice, to be followed by Christy Neochin.
Mr. Mr. Rice, good evening.
Reese, but that's
Reese.
yes,
all right,
That's okay. That's okay.
We'll
That's
go with
okay.
that.
I know a few people. I know a
The
few
old timers
up there
remember
That's
you.
okay, yeah. It's 5 minutes now. It kind of extended, so I'll try not to use it all up. Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, good evening. I just wanted to come up. First of all, I wanted to talk about just crime issues in general. I think I had a number of weeks ago I had emailed most of you, at least the City Council members and some of the city managers, as well as some of the command officers, about some of the problems that had been going on in South Temecula with some of the homeless. And I have read and I've seen a lot of improvement on that. I think I had brought up the issue of the police, our sheriff's deputies out here that work for us, using problem-oriented policing, and it seems like they've been doing that. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and I'm very happy about that. I just wanted to mention that, as well as I know this is going to somewhat dovetail on the other bigger issue that's coming up later, but I do think that it's important that for our law enforcement in general to, in being proactive, they use every tool at their resource, which includes partnering with federal law enforcement agencies. That's so critical because, it's not enough for our deputies here. It just makes so much sense for them to be able to coordinate and to work with and to communicate and to work effectively in a partnership with any federal agency. It doesn't matter. We shouldn't have to pick and choose. If we have a bank robbery here where bank robbery falls under FBI jurisdiction, the FBI should be able to work as easily with our police here as an agent working for the Border Patrol or Immigration Customs Enforcement. There should be no differentiation among agencies. We shouldn't be picking and choosing. Branching off on that, I did want to talk a little bit about the U.S. Border Patrol. I realize I'm retired from federal law enforcement myself. It wasn't with the Border Patrol, but I realize that this area here is very, very unique. Unlike most communities, we have a Border Patrol here. Between us and our neighboring city of Murrieta, it's almost like we have a third police department here, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. Having those Border Patrol cruisers patrolling in our neighborhoods, or even stopping over and filling up at the AM/PM at midnight, that's having a deterrent presence there that does have a real impact on stopping crime, and we should be very thankful for the Border Patrol. And all I would say is that this month is the 51-year anniversary of when those two Border Patrol agents were found murdered in 1967. That happened. They went missing on June 17th and were found on June 19th. I would, as far as everything that's going on out here tonight, I would only ask that you also consider maybe the city should actually do like a Border Patrol Appreciation Day. We should actually do something. Those Border Patrol agents, they're part of our community.
You're out of your time.
They're part of our community. They go to our churches. They're so much vital to our community. I think, like I said, a really good thing would be to do a Border Patrol appreciation. So thank you very much.
Rick. All right, next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Christy Nikocher, to be followed by Dan Collins.
Hi, my name is Christine Nikoshe, and I am with Hospice of the Valleys. We are a community nonprofit hospice, and I am here tonight to express some gratitude and some good news. So the gratitude. City of Temecula, thank you so much for your grant support that we've received. Your generosity and the generous donations from the community allow us to provide patient and family care that is really different than other hospices in the area. 88 cents of every dollar we receive, whether it's through a donation or through insurance, goes right back to patient care, and 100% of our grant money that you so generously support goes directly to patient care. So thank you so much for recognizing that that is important to our community. Now the good news. Because of your support, Hospice of the Valley is the only hospice in the state of California to receive elite status. So much like in the past, we've been able to compare hospitals and compare nursing homes. Now we compare hospices. You can go on Medicare.gov and look up, and to achieve that status, patients' families receive surveys from Medicare, and to receive elite status, 24 out of the 24 questions answered need to be above the national average. We're the only one in the state of California. Temecula Valley's own hospice is the only one in the state of California to do that, and there are hundreds. There are thousands nationwide, only 71 nationwide, and 1 in California. So I just want to say thank you. It couldn't have been done without the support from the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
On non-agendized items is Dan Collins.
Hold on a sec. I obviously didn't expect you to be here tonight, but less than a year ago, my mother passed away, and she used hospice. We used Hospice of the Valleys, and everything you said is an understatement. You guys were amazing, fantastic, and I just encourage you to keep doing the type of work that you're doing. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Our last speaker under non-agendized items is Mr. Collins.
Hello, and thank you. Appreciate being here tonight. I'm known inside the office as the sign guy. I'm Dan Collins, and I just opened up a business 1 year ago, celebrated my 1-year anniversary on Saturday. And the reason why I'm here is because when I opened my business, I thought it would be a little easier in this town, not because I was not going to work hard. I've worked every day but 29 days last year, over the last year. And what I found is we have a problem here in the city with the sign ordinance. And what I'm going to spell out tonight is that it is, one, discriminatory and set up for the wealthy, because there are 2 different sign policies, one for the auto dealerships and another one for the small businessman. The other issue is if you open a business and you're using signs. Now, I've been all over for a year documenting, and I've got photos here, a few samples of many of these signs all over town. Now, some of which have been up 24/7 for an entire year. As soon as I opened my business, within a few weeks, I did some signs. Code enforcement came. Then I did some flags. Well, code enforcement came again. I've been visited 9 times by code enforcement. The reason why I've been visited 9 times by code enforcement is because a competitor just across the way decides that she's going to call every time I put any sign out and complain. So she's using the city as a harassment tool. Now, I drive through this city constantly seeing signs, and I photographed and documented for a year all these signs that are illegal out there for other businesses, but yet I can't have mine up. And so I come today to ask the city to really evaluate their sign policy. And what I'd like to ask is that the city, for new businesses, give them a period of time at which they could put their signs up so people can recognize their business. I don't think I'm asking for much. The other thing is I don't think it's right that a auto dealership can pay to have it rezoned, to have other types of signs, not other types of signs, but all these illegal signs all over the rest of the city for the small businessmen. This is not fair. It's like saying the rich guy can have these signs, but the little guy can't. So what I'm asking also, too, is that you give the same respect to both small business and big business. Now, I know you've all ran a platform of supporting businesses, and I would like to ask that you support the small business, and in that, work with the small businesses when they've been open a year or less, or they're just opening. The other thing I would ask, one other thing, is for businesses in this town that are struggling. I think in your sign policy, it should be an opportunity for a struggling business that says, hey, look, I'm not doing well, but I've been in business for a long time. I would like to put up some signs. Let them have the same opportunity every so many years or every so often to be able to extend the period of time they can put up flags, signs, and other things. So that's what I'm asking tonight. You'll probably see me more often in this hall because obviously there's a lot of issues to address, and I've decided this has woken me up to what's going on in the city, because I'm a struggling business. I'm a new business.
Hey,
I've done well.
Mr. Collins, you're out of time. But look forward to continuing the conversation. We'll be reaching out to City Manager's office to find out more about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Comachero?
Aaron, we've gone through, in my time here, I don't know how many different sign ordinances until we felt we got it right. At least 6 over the years, but it's been a while. And it probably is not a bad idea to at least review whether our sign ordinance is still working. Nothing is ever going to work for everybody the way they want to, but is it at least fair? And so I'm not asking to bring back an agenda item, but let's have staff, know they're busy, but when they can, take a look, really review it, and if there is a need to revise or bring it back, then let's talk about it.
Will do.
Thank you.
One last thing. In 10 hours, I've been working 7 days a week.
Sorry, your time is up.
I've photographed in 10 hours all these illegal signs.
If you have anything you'd like to leave with the city clerk, feel free, and we'll be in touch.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, we have one speaker on item number 18.
We do, Mr. Mayor, Bob Hawley on item number 18.
Good evening. My name is Bob Hawley. I live in the Crown Hill community of Temecula, and I've been working with the Public Traffic Safety Commission trying to get some traffic controls established in our community. This is a copy of the location map that I believe is in your agenda package. And it highlights 2 intersections. The red dots highlight 2 intersections. The first one is Crown Hill Drive and Camelot, Vermont Drive. The second one is Crown Hill Drive and Old Kent Road. Both of them have similar issues. I'd like to discuss the first one. One of the issues here is that there is a park located adjacent to that intersection. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic, children playing. There's a lot of youth sports teams that practice there, especially in the fall. And it's used by people of all ages all year round. Especially in the summertime, it gets a little more use. The result is there's a lot more foot traffic at that intersection. This intersection is also on a suggested route to school. If you continue east on Vermont Drive, about a half a mile, there is Crown Hill Elementary School. So during the school year, there's a great deal of foot traffic going to the school through that intersection. The third issue is that because of the curvature of the road, there's a very limited sight distance. So people coming even at the speed limit of 40 miles per hour only have about 200 feet to be ready if someone is crossing the street. So that intersection is particularly risky for pedestrians and vehicular traffic. The other intersection, Old Kent Road and Crown Hill Drive, if the crossing guard were here to talk about it, she would tell you that the mornings when she's there for crossing guard duty, getting children to the school, on good days is frightening. On bad days, it's terrifying out there. She stands well off the road. When people come, she's waving her stop sign frantically to make sure people see her. This Crown Hill Drive recently had the speed limit raised from 35 to 40, so people normally travel 45 to 50. And it makes it very, very risky on that road. And I've discussed it with the Public Traffic Safety Commission, and they've concurred that these should be given full consideration for stop signs and crosswalks. So I appreciate you considering it. I strongly urge you to approve it. It's desperately needed there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nagar.
Mayor, with your, unless you're going in another direction, with the exception of the item that I think is getting pulled, I'll move the balance of consent. Is that?
Out of pulling item 6 for...
Yeah, you're going to pull item 6?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and move the balance.
Mr. Mayor, if we can have the consent calendar read.
Well, you see, I'm premature. Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
All right, let's go ahead and read the consent calendar. All matters listed on consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the City Council request specific items be removed from consent calendar for separate action. Item number 1, waive reading of standard ordinances and resolution. Item number 2, approve the action minutes of June 12, 2018. Number 3, approve list of demands. Number 4, approve the City Treasurer's report as of April 30th, 2018. Item number 5, adopt resolutions regarding the November 6, 2018 general municipal election. Item number 6, adopt resolution regarding the California Values Act, SB 54. Item number 7, approve annual renewal of various insurance policies. Item number 8, approve an agreement with Eskil LLC for plan review services for fiscal years 2018 through 2021. Item number 9, approve an agreement with Purdue, Russell, Matthews, and Fusco Real Estate Appraisal for on-call real estate appraisal services. Item number 10, approve First Amendment to the agreement with Spurlock Landscape Architects for the Uptown Temecula Specific Plan Sidewalk Improvement Guidelines. 11, approve First Amendment to the agreement with Moore Goldsman, Inc., MIG, for on-call planning consultant services. Item 12, approve an agreement with STC Traffic, Inc. for fiber optic communication system upgrade, PW18-05 Highway Safety Improvement Program, Cycle 7 Federal Project Number HSIP 7-08-020. Item number 13, approve the amendments to the annual agreements for professional on-call services for various needs for the Department of Public Works Capital Improvement Program Division for fiscal year 2018-19. 14, approve the amendments to the annual agreements for fiscal year 2018-19 for routine maintenance, on-call and emergency services for various operational needs for the Department of Public Works Maintenance Division. Item number 15, accept improvements and file notice of completion for the Patricia H. Birdsall Sports Park Synthetic Turf Replacement, PW15-08. Item 16, accept improvements and file the notice of completion for sidewalks citywide, Ridge Park West, Segment 34, PW17-27. 17 is accept improvements and file a notice of completion for the Butterfield Stage Road at La Serena Way traffic signal installation, PW1511TS. 18, adopt a resolution to establish an all-way traffic stop control at the intersection of Crown Hill Drive at Vermont Road, Camelot Road, and Crown Hill Drive at Old Kent Road. And finally, item number 19, approve the plans and specifications and authorize solicitation of construction bids for Library Parking Phase 2 project, PW13-09.
So, Mr. Mayor, if that's the direction you wanted to go, I'll move the balance of consent, unless you want to wait till you hear item 6, whatever your pleasure.
No, let's go ahead and move.
Second.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? And that passes 5-0. Now moving on to item, let's see, on the consent calendar, number 6, backing up a little bit. Adopt a resolution regarding California Values Act, SB 54. How many speakers do we have, Ms. City Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, we have 34 speakers.
All right, 34 speakers. All right, a couple of quick road rules on this one. Number 1, everybody is going to be allotted their 3 minutes of speaking time. I'm going to be pretty strict about that because we have a lot of speakers and a lot of information to get through, and we want everybody to have a fair opportunity to use their 3 minutes effectively. Also, let's make sure we just keep a moniker of decorum here this evening. I appreciate everybody's interest and enthusiasm and passion on this subject, but what we don't need is a lot of applauding and hoopla, no outbursts from the audience and so forth. And I know that Temecula residents we're all very respectful of one another, and I appreciate everybody coming out and speaking on this issue. And with that said, can we have the first speaker, please?
Mr. Mayor, the first speaker is Wayne Hall, to be followed by Martha Howard.
Mr. Hall, kicking off the evening. Haven't seen you in a while, sir.
Good evening. I've missed you guys, believe it or not, I really did. Tonight, I have expectations. I expect our law enforcement, some nuts shooting up our school, they run inside and try and stop him. I expect our firemen to run into a burning house to save whoever's inside and putting the fire out. I have expectations of the city passing this. I'm for it. When I took the oath for that flag for 20 years, I didn't tell my battalion commander, time out, I don't agree with this law. So I want to step aside. Couldn't tell him that. Under the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, I'd court-martial. I don't like politics. Never have. This is the right thing to do for the simple reason that it's the law. If you don't like the law, change the law. If you don't like the way things are run for city council, or we have an opening at the governor of California because the last one we had was nutsoing. All I'm saying is that if you don't like the law, change it. But right now, you go by the law. And like I told our illustrious congressman, no wall, no vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Next speaker, please.
Pardon?
Oh, thank you.
The next speaker is Martha Howard, to be followed by Paul Marth.
Ms. Howard, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and supporting staff. I wish you a successful year, Mayor Ran. My name is Marta. I'm the Latina Association president. I live in Temecula since 1994. I'm a resident of this city, and I belong to this city. Tonight, I'm bringing a message from our immigrant communities. The city of Temecula supports sanctuary cities policies. Otherwise, it will be detrimental, and I tell you why. Families will continue to be separated. American citizens' civil rights will be violated when children are left to fend for themselves and if their parents are being deported without a due process. Fearing the protection, immigrant communities will become open target, and the most vulnerable will be women and children, and they will be exposed without protection. I'm before you appealing for human treatment to our immigrant communities and to let the federal government handle the affairs we, the people, had entrusted to do. Our local law enforcement should not be involved, keeping the separation of powers as primary. Our free democracy people set the course of government, not government sets the course for us, the people. And in closing, I just want to give you a quote from the Federalist Paper 51. Different interests necessarily exist in different classes of citizens. If a majority be united by a common interest, the rights of the minority will be insecure. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The next speaker is Paul Marth, to be followed by Luis Reyes.
Good evening. My handwriting is very bad, so my name is Paul Menth, M-E-N-T-H. I think that's who you called, but I'm sorry about that. I set you up on that, so it's really bad handwriting, so thank you. I am delighted to live in California in a sanctuary state. I am against the adoption of this resolution. I don't think it will make our communities safer to adopt this resolution. I think the real criminals that are being held in the jails that are undocumented aliens are being taken care of already, so I don't think we need to be duplicitous in that respect. And from a practical standpoint, what happens next? If we adopt this resolution to opt out of SB 54, are we now going to be funding a lawsuit against the state of California? Are we going to be participating in that? It's my understanding that there are other municipalities that are ready, willing, and able and want to do that. So what else can be achieved by us doing that? So I would recommend not supporting this resolution. Thank you.
The next speaker is Luis Reyes, to be followed by Wally Wozniak.
Well, I do want to, it's not a comment, it's a point of order, just a quick point of order. It would be helpful to me if the speakers, if they choose to, would identify if they live in the city of Temecula or not. That's important to me. I'm mainly concerned with what Temecula residents think. Holistically, certainly we'll listen to everybody, but they don't have to say where they live, but that would be very helpful to me in the decisions I make.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to project this on the screen, sir.
Okay, there's right there, and they should be able to. You might want to scoot it down a little bit.
Oh, okay, I see it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Honorable Mayor, esteemed council, I'm here because I know about this subject a little bit more in depth than a lot of people know. And it's obvious that as citizens, that it's increasingly obvious that citizens are becoming more concerned and actually more educated on this particular subject. SB 54 is an unconstitutional law. SB 54 has been drummed up and drafted by an agenda-driven state government. Now, one thing I can tell you about SB 54, we want to keep our citizens safe. We want to keep our law enforcement safe. And I will guarantee you, if you don't do the right thing this evening, we got a major problem on our hands, because you're looking at a sanctuary city. And by being a sanctuary city, you're going to attract individuals into this city that are less than desirable. Heroin's on the increase. I can show you cities, I can talk about cities in California that are, I hate to even use the term, no-go zones. Our law enforcement's in danger. The good people of those cities, the hardworking people of those cities are in danger. Their children are in danger. I'd like for you to get in touch with Congressman Buck in Colorado. He actually went to Latin America, Central America to be exact, and he spoke to the experts. And for your information, Colorado is now a huge distribution center for drugs. It encompasses a six-state area now as distribution. I don't want to see this beautiful city where I live in this area go to something like that. And again, should any of you want to take me up on it, I can take you to areas in California that are no-go zones and are getting increasingly worse. So again, I certainly hope you do the right thing this evening and draw up a resolution, because I can obviously, it's obvious that there's people that don't understand this. They hear things, but they don't know it in depth. I do. I took the oath to the Constitution, and I will die for my oath. And I hate for citizens, good citizens of Temecula, to be brought into this. So that's why I'm here this evening. I don't want to see that happen in Temecula. If you look at that list that I posted up there, over 50 cities and counties have chose to go against SB 54. If you look at some of those cities and some of those counties, they're fairly nice counties and cities. And believe me, their city attorneys actually
Sorry, but you're out of time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next speaker is Wally Wozniak, to be followed by Vaughn Becht.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you all hear me? Good. I just am a first-time speaker at the council meeting and 13-year resident of Temecula, and I just had one simple question that I wanted to ask our representatives, each of you, and that is whether you support the Sanctuary City program or you do not support it. And I guess when I came here tonight, I didn't know that there was a resolution that you guys are going to basically make that decision. So I guess my question is mute. But anyway, that was the reason I came. I'm hoping that I'm in favor of, I don't really support the Sanctuary City program, but I know everybody has mixed emotions about that. But I am hoping that our city will also become not a sanctuary city. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Vaughn Beck, to be followed by Betty Robinson.
Could you put this on the...
Turn it the other way. There you go. Well, no, one more. Hey there. One more. There it is. All right.
Hey. Okay. My name is Vaughn Beck, and I'm a California citizen. Been in the state for over 7 years, so I think I'm qualified. Mayor and council persons, SB 54 is a formula for disaster. California overstepped their rights as a state and violated the Constitution's supremacy clause. We the people are fed up with the overreach of the state and refusal of California to cooperate with feds. SB 54 provides the opportunity for criminals to be released back into the communities they continue to prey on. Why venerate these illegal aliens? Open communications between law enforcement at local, state, and federal level is paramount in enhancing our security. Failure to do so endangers our communities. We do not need illegal drugs, sex deviants, MS-13 punks, arsonists, murderers, and assaults. Why shield and shelter these illegal aliens? You need to squelch that madness. You need to reject SB 54. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We're asking you to support the resolution to oppose SB 54, and you join the amicus brief opposing SB 54. This person you see on this photo here, he was a 24-year-old who was killed by a drunk, hit-and-run illegal alien driver who had 6 previous deportations and at least 5 criminal convictions. Think on that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
The next speaker is Betty Robinson, to be followed by Patrice Lines.
Good evening. My name is Betty Robinson. I'm a lifelong resident of Southern California. The issue of SB 54 extends beyond city borders. It affects our whole sanctuary state. Thank you for placing the resolution against SB 54 on your agenda. You are well aware of the negative impact of SB 54 on the public and ICE agents when illegal alien criminals are released into the communities rather than handed over to ICE. You will be receiving a handout that I have over there. It's a list that I kept for about 2 years. It shows that 147 people, and there are so many more, have been killed by illegal aliens. And many of them had a long criminal history and had been deported multiple times. How many more people are going to be sacrificed so illegal aliens can remain in the country? In less intense matters, have you heard about SB 946, the sidewalk vendor bill? It's one floor vote away from passing, and it will allow street vendors, with few exceptions, to set up wherever, regardless of local regulations. Or SB 174, which will serve to legalize the 2 foreign nationals here illegally who have been serving on city commissions in Huntington Park for about 3 years. So illegal aliens may soon legally displace citizens on commissions and boards. By joining others in opposition to sanctuary state, you are also sending Sacramento a collective warning. Stop usurping local authority. I urge you to pass the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Patrice Lyons, to be followed by James Horn.
Hi, Council. My name is Patrice Lyons. I'm from Temecula. In my lifetime, California has gone from the Golden State into a state of lawlessness. Unconstitutional SB 54 has reduced California to a national security threat. Since SB 54 was enacted in January 2018, more than 10,000 illegal felons have been released onto our streets. SB 54 dictates illegal alien criminal felons are to be released onto our streets from jail, so SB 54 prevents the federal government from removing violent recidivist illegal alien criminals from deportation. California Governor Brown has failed us. He has placed us in an untenable, unsafe, lawless mess. SB 54 will not stand because the Supremacy Clause and federal laws pursuant to it are the supreme law of the land. Until the courts decide the fate of SB 54, it is incumbent upon our cities and counties to pass resolutions and join the amicus brief opposing SB 54 to protect our public safety and our law enforcement. California is worth fighting for. And remember, evil triumphs when good men do nothing. I am tonight honored to wear the T-shirt with Kate Steinley's picture on it. I know you all know all about Kate. And she was a 32-year-old beautiful woman walking on the pier with her dad when she was killed by a 5-time deported, 7-time illegal alien felon, just released from jail without an ICE hold in a sanctuary city. We do not want this to happen to anyone ever again. Thank you.
The next speaker is James Horn, to be followed by Nam Young Ho.
Good evening. My name is James Horn. Jim Horn, call me other names as well. I am a retired Foreign Service officer. I work with the Department of State, one of the national security agencies. I have sworn to uphold and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. Governor Brown is attacking the Constitution of the United States. One of the titles I held, I was a commissioned vice consul, which means I was a visa and immigration officer. I interviewed people in American embassies in the Middle East and South Asia. I had a 90% refusal rate because I was protecting America from intending illegal immigrants. And I did a pretty good job on it because I got letters of scorn from Chuck Schumer. And I want to encourage you to pass your resolution. And after you pass your resolution, work with other city councils in the area in the spirit of collegiality to bring them all on board so you have a unanimous group of cities supporting or going against SB 54. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Nam Young Horn, to be followed by Tian Deline.
Good evening. How are you? Good to see everyone here. And the new James Stewart, welcome. And I used to live here, and right now I'm living in Menifee because I care. If something happened to Temecula, it's going to come to Menifee. And SB 54, I'm not for that because I follow the federal law. And this is not about immigration. I believe this is about safety, right? And we all have homes, and we have doors. Did anybody don't lock your door at night? Please raise your hands. I want to know. I lock my doors because people are people, and people out there, some are good, some are not so good. And we also have a jail. Region we have a jail because if you don't follow the law, there's a place to go. And I believe our jail is pretty full. So, but I want to be short because I remember one time you had to drag me out. And just thank you very much for put this in your agenda. And I believe Temecula City Councils will do the right things because I believe we all for safety, right? Yes, that's all. And thank you very much.
The next speaker is Deanne Deline, to be followed by Raul Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Deanne Deline, and I help write grants for different cities to get grant money. And so I belong here because it's taxpayer money that has come to your city. I have hope for this council and for this audience. Remember to render unto Caesar which is his, and do the same for God. Oops. I am invoking my First Amendment rights of freedom of speech and freedom of religion, which the government or anyone can infringe upon. Read Amendment 1, page 21 of this pocket Constitution. Read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, page 15. The U.S. shall guarantee every state a republican form of government and protect each from foreign invasion and domestic violence. Read page 16, Article 6. You are bound by oath to support this, our Constitution. Even teachers have to state their oath or sign the oath to support the Constitution. I am supporting the Constitution forever. Why? I am not in education now, but I taught for 47 years. Each of my classes, K through 8th, learned about our Constitution, and my daughter is doing the same thing with her classes now. God bless this council. God bless this audience. God bless this USA. Thank you very much. And I do have constitutions for each of the members of the council. Patrice, here's one more over there.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Raul Rodriguez, to be followed by Janet West.
Good evening, council members. This person that you see here is Joe Story. He was murdered by an illegal who was in this country illegally. He was driving a car while he was intoxicated, and he hit a truck that Joe was in. His sister was in there, and so was his wife. He ended up losing his life. He died because of a person in this country illegally. It is so sad that you hear stories after story of people murdered by illegals. We need to stop this. It's a shame that Obama did nothing about our illegal immigration problem. In fact, he opened the door for illegals to walk through the door. I'd like to also state that we live in a republic, not a democracy. People need to understand that. President Roosevelt said we have but one flag and we have but one language, and that is English. And that is in the Constitution for California and the United States Constitution. And we need to remember that we are a nation of laws. We need to remember that. And it's up to you council members on the local level, state level, and the federal level. Any elected official needs to follow the law. Nobody is above the law, especially those that are elected by we the people. And there's ways that we can remove those individuals. And we can either impeach them, we can get them out and put them behind bars because they're not doing their job. They're not taking care of the citizens in this country who are American citizens. And we need to put Americans first. It's important because we, as Americans, I love this country myself. I was born here. And I took an oath when I joined the military. When I became a citizen, I also took an oath. And every member on this council also took an oath. And that oath was to serve your constituents, to serve the public, to serve the American citizens. And that is so important that we do that as politicians and as American citizens. Because if we don't, this nation is going down. And we don't want that. We don't want to lose any more American citizens. And I thank you for allowing me to exercise my First Amendment right.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Janet West, to be followed by Sam Wong.
I'm honored to be able to wear this T-shirt. DeAndre Mitchell was one of 5 Americans killed by an illegal alien who set an intentional fire in L.A. He's extremely missed by his loving mother and 2-year-old daughter. She's been separated from her father forever. Government Code, this is from SB 54, Government Code 7282.5. A law enforcement official shall have discretion to cooperate with immigration authorities only where permitted by the California Values Act. So, if someone robs a bank, that's a federal crime. But as you know, it's usually local law enforcement who take the person into custody. If I rob a bank, as an American citizen, they will turn me over to the FBI. If an illegal alien robs a bank, they will not turn them over to the FBI because they will be submitted to immigration enforcement. Is that fair? Why are illegal aliens being treated better? Not even the same, but better than American citizens. Sheriff Hutchins, the Orange County Sheriff, said that because of SB 54, she's had to release people convicted of sex with minor, child cruelty, and domestic violence. The San Diego Union Tribune ran an article. The San Diego Sheriff Department did a report that showed during the first 4.5 months of sanctuary state, San Diego County Sheriff released 349 more illegal immigrants, and it was half of the ICE requests. So I ask you to please consider the safety of all of your constituents and of California and all legal citizens and legal immigrants. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sam Wong, to be followed by Bob Cowell.
So there's a divergence in opinions. You may be right, but I'm always wrong. Okay, all right. Take that 3 minutes away. Okay, I live with that. Now, all of you folks actually pledged allegiance this evening. And at the end it says, justice for all Americans. It was actually Captain Balch in 1892 who actually coined that Pledge of Allegiance. It was actually there was a separation between the North and the South during the Civil War. It's not everyone in the world when you pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. So it's all Americans. All right. So, okay, why are we addressing this? It's going to go to the Supreme Court or Ninth Circuit, right? So it will take years for resolutions to come. In the meantime, how many of you folks are willing to be subjected to crime while waiting for the Ninth Circuit to opine? Oh, this issue will cause divisiveness in our community. No, the criminals are the ones who are dividing us. Whether they're illegal or illegal immigrants or not, they're the ones who are dividing the good from the bad. All right? If we oppose SB 54, the immigrants be fearful in cooperating with the law enforcement. I grew up in San Francisco. We had the FOBs and the ABCs. ABCs, American-born Chinese, already been chewed. FOBs, fresh off the boats. We saw a lot of those. I know what it was like in Chinatown during the Golden Dragon Massacre. Many of you folks may not even remember that. It was my friend that actually was killed. Who do you think the immigrants are more fearful of? The criminals or the law-abiding citizens? They're more afraid of the criminals, I'll tell you that for sure. Oh, illegal criminals account for less crimes than those who are legal. Well, you have a bad apple and a bad orange. Which would you eat? Neither. They're both bad. Get rid of one of them and get rid of the other. Okay? Oh, illegal immigrants pay taxes more than they receive, right? No. I actually did math in college. No. High school? No. Elementary school. I am a physician, by the way. In 2013, according to FARR, okay, total governmental expenditures for the illegal immigrants, $135 billion. Tax contributions by the illegal immigrants, $19 billion. Let me see, 135 versus 19. Which is more? Net, $116 billion net lost. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Bob Cowell, to be followed by Robert Lawton.
Good evening. Thank you for putting this on the agenda, the resolution number 18-something. Anyway, I thank you for doing that. I think it's so important that we unite as cities across the state, even if it's on the idea that it won't have an official impact. It's important to unite in the sense that we are together against a state of lawlessness. We are for the U.S. Constitution. We're not for a lawless state that the governor of California has taken us to. I ask you and I thank you for voting for this tonight. and putting it in law, and maybe going further sometime, and going with not Los Alamitos, but some of the other cities, Huntington Beach, on that line. It costs no money for that. Friday night, we're having, if you want to know more about it, we're having Sean Steele, the National Republican Committee man, coming to right here at your committee, at your Temecula City Hall Conference Center. Anyway, I grew up in Alhambra. My dad grew up in Alhambra. Back in those days, life was totally different. My wife grew up in Cuernavaca, Mexico, as a missionary kid, and her father stayed there for 28 years. She came here when she was 12, and she never wants to go back, ever. And down in Mexico, we went on our honeymoon down there, and we go down there every month. But down in Mexico, they're going to, because the lawlessness is going down there right now. Tijuana is the fifth most dangerous city in the world. As of June the 5th, 1,001 people were murdered. Those people are coming across the border. When I cross the border, I see them crossing the border. I see a whole group of maybe 100 black men, and not in the ages between 20 and 35, all dressed in new clothes and new tennis shoes, coming across the border, or at least going through the transition of going across the border. Ask the taxi cab driver where they're from. They're from Eritrea. So we have a problem. We need to fix it. The Democrats know this is a huge problem. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're trying to get new voters into this country to take over again. So please help us, the citizens of this country. Thank you.
The next speaker is Robert Loughton, to be followed by Robin Hvidston.
I'm Robert Loughton. This T-shirt from the Remembrance Project is about a border agent that was murdered at the border. I support your resolution. I support the federal lawsuit of U.S. versus the state of California. The three bills that make California a sanctuary state are AB 450, AB 103, and SB 54. The Department of Justice lawsuit seeks to nullify the unconstitutional parts of AB 450, AB 103, and SB 540. I support your resolution. I support the resolution. When someone opens a business in Temecula, the proper city agency should make the new business owner familiar with AB 450. AB 450 protects the illegal alien in the workplace. It protects the illegal alien in the workforce from immigration and custom enforcements. And the only way for a businessman owner to get around SB 54 is to use the voluntary E-Verify system that matches the name with the Social Security number or work permit number. SB 54 keeps secret the release date from immigration and custom enforcement. Absent the release date, the ICE agents are not able to take into custody the illegal alien that committed a serious crime when the illegal alien is still in custody. It makes it safer for everyone. Okay, then absent the release date, the ICE agents are forced into the community or workplace. Oops, having a senior moment here. SB 54 protects the illegal alien in the workforce, in the workplace. And so it's safer. So that then, so when ICE has to go into the community, it's a dangerous for the ICE agents, and it's dangerous for anybody that's in the home or in the neighborhood of the illegal alien that committed a serious crime and bad complications can happen out of this situation. It's better for the ICE agent to take custody of the illegal alien that committed a serious crime when he's already in custody. Thank you.
The next speaker is Robin. Robin, I'm not sure about your last name, but okay. Jorge Bustos is next.
Yes, my name is Robin Bidston, and I'm the California State Coordinator for the Remembrance Project. We honor American citizens who've been killed by those in our country illegally. And we particularly are aware of the fact that our law enforcement have lost their lives at the hands of those in our country illegally. As Robert stated, this is Border Patrol Agent Robert Rosas. He left behind a wife and 2 small children. He was murdered right at the border in Campo, California. SB 54 is not about immigration. It's about protecting criminal aliens that are in the custody of local law enforcement. We have California deputies that have lost their lives. This is a Sacramento deputy. An illegal alien was on the loose that they were chasing, and he ambushed and killed this deputy. He left behind 2 small children. That is Deputy Danny Oliver. Also, we have Deputy Michael Davis. He was a Placer County deputy. He leaves behind 4 small children. The issue of SB 54 is about public safety. We found that our Orange County supervisor, Ted Spitzer, one of the reasons he voted to oppose SB 54 is because law enforcement is endangered. In the setting of the jail, an officer can contact immigration and there can be a transfer. However, if that does not occur, our ICE agents have to go out into the community, which is very dangerous, as we can see from officers that have lost their lives. SB 54 is about protecting criminal aliens. For example, the bill states only a convicted alien with a DUI that's a felony, only that rises to the level of our local officer communicating with immigration. Most DUIs are plea bargained down to misdemeanors. So that means those in our country illegally convicted of misdemeanor drunk driving are returned back into our communities, and this is a public safety issue. 40 of our 54 California sheriffs have come out against SB 54 because they are the ones that run the jails, and they are the ones that understand we are going to be releasing dangerous criminal aliens back into our communities. We would call upon you, the Remembrance Project opposes SB 54, and we're calling upon you to take a stand against that tonight and also consider signing on to an amicus brief. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jorge Bustos, to be followed by Cindy Bustos.
Good evening. It should be the other way around, right? Follow my wife to speak. But maybe I can get away with this. Thank you for letting me give you my opinion. I am an immigrant, and I've been in this country since 1975. It took me 10 years to become a citizen. When I swore an oath to that flag, I did it as an adult, knowing what I was doing, and with pride and honor, I still do. It wasn't just by luck, let's say, by being born in this country. I had to work to get here, and the country accepted it under their laws, and I'm grateful for that. I could raise a family, educate my kids. One has a master's, one has a PhD, and they're good members of the community. I moved to Temecula in 88, 89, when the city wasn't still Temecula. Got to vote for the city name, and I know some familiar faces. I remember all the first city councilmen, and they've done great, and we can see by this great building, that over the years you've done the right decisions. But my point is that the city and the council always done right by the citizens, and now we're in front of the resolution that kind of cast a shadow over some people like me, because even though when somebody says we're just looking for illegal immigrants, basically the code word behind is kind of immigrants, and we get painted with a big white brush. And it's kind of unfortunate that they use it as a rallying cry. And to me, it says, well, in the city of Temecula, Murrieta, and all the valley, do we know what percentage of the crimes are committed by illegal immigrants that deserve this approach from the city? So basically, I don't have the facts. I know that I haven't been arrested lately. And so it's just saying, let's find out what the real situation is, and then I'll be with you in that respect. And I believe that this is a national law, so we should follow the laws. And when we are trying to put this fear in the immigrant community and the friends and neighbors, who does freely talk to the police or other agencies about whatever crimes happen in here? The fear is a message that is being sent to us. So I do appreciate, I thank you for listening to me, and I hope that you make the right decision. And at this moment, as somebody said, it's going to take a long while, but maybe the city of Temecula should not vote for these kind of laws that kind of paint a different picture to some of us. And there are quite a few of us in the town. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Cindy Bustos, to be followed by Donald Dix.
Hello, Council. Thank you so much for letting me speak today. My husband, it's a family thing tonight. We've been here since 1989, just like that sign there. We were here to vote on the incorporation of the city of Temecula. And we knew at that time when we moved here from Orange County, everyone knew everyone. I don't know how, I think a lot of you were here at that time. My husband's a dentist, and we're owned a dental practice here for almost 25 years. I love and adore this city. My parents are buried in this city. I think that this city has made a lot of really good decisions. I'm very, very proud. I'm proud of this building in the center, and I know you caught some flack. Oh, why should the city of Temecula spend all that money? But you've always been forward-thinking, and you've always been smart. And I know what a sacrifice it is of your time sitting here on this council, and I respect that. I also want to say that as much as I can remember, there was not a coup that took over the state of California. Our state representatives were duly elected. There was not a coup that decided on making California a sanctuary state. I'm not going to debate immigration policy here tonight, but our city is a destination city because of some very smart planning by our city. And we have also joined with the Pechanga tribe to enrich our city. I think we have embraced diversity. Right now, there are images of babies in cages. I don't want the city of Temecula to be associated with that image. I believe history will judge this time and judge this hate. And I would hope that the city of Temecula stands up proudly and does not embrace that. And I urge you to vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
The next speaker is Donald Dix, to be followed by Jesse S.
Good evening. My name's Don Dix. I'm a resident of the city of Corona. Mayor, council, staff, and fellow citizens, I have had the opportunity to follow this issue from a variety of different perspectives. I've watched the telecasts of most of the cities and counties that have taken this issue up as an agenda item, whether it's to vote on a resolution or to join in an amicus brief, or in some cases, like the city of Los Alamitos, to actually fight this. I want to say at the outset that SB 54 does opposing or supporting SB 54 and this issue does not cause me to look at immigrants in this state and country in any different light. Individuals that have sacrificed, that have come here, that have immigrated properly and become legal citizens, I can tell you that SB 54 does not cast a negative light by me on them. I appreciate that people go through our system legally, and I honor their sacrifice. I actually helped organize the response to SB 54 in my own city of Corona. We put the agenda item on the agenda. I also attended a committee meeting prior to that, which was considering this. And the assistant city attorney gave a presentation about this, and among the things that he advised the two council folks that were there was that the city of Corona does not have any particular dog in the hunt of SB 54. We don't have a prison. Our police turn prisoners over to the sheriffs. And I had the opportunity then to ask the assistant city attorney a couple of quick questions. The first question that I asked them is that if the sheriff's department does release an individual who's an illegal immigrant back into our community and they come into the city of Corona, does that impact the resources of the city of Corona? Because the city of Corona has a police department that's going to have to arrest that individual again if they recommit a crime. He said, well, of course it will impact the resources of our city. And I said, if that individual was released because of the impact of SB 54, they come back into the city of Corona and they commit another crime, does that impact the resources that the city of Corona has? He said, well, yes. And I said, so apparently a representation to our city council that it does not impact the resources of the city is situational if perhaps the sheriff is forced to release somebody. And he said, well, in that case, yes, it would impact the safety and the resources of our city. Sheriff Stan Sniff opposed this along with most of the other sheriffs. And there's an interesting aspect of this that most of the people that support SB 54 aren't considering.
Mr. Dix, you're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're dying to know what that is, I'd be happy to share it with you.
The next speaker is Jesse S., to be followed by Stella May.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jesse, and I'm also from Corona. And it was fairly easy to cross your border into your city because you have no wall. But I assure you, I crossed legally. Thank you. With that being said, is De Leon, Governor Brown, criminals. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they are in violation of harboring subsection 1324A1A, a federal offense. If anybody in this room did that, we would be arrested. And it's a shame that these people are above the law. And illegal immigrants do make contributions, and I'd like to read a few of them. In a 7-year period in Texas, 200,000 of them have been arrested for criminal offenses. In a 7-year period, 600,000 crimes were committed by illegal aliens, over 1,000 murders, 6,000 sexual assaults, over 600 kidnappings. And in the United States alone, over 65,000 Americans have been killed by illegal aliens. So that's some contribution, wouldn't you say? And I'm also an immigrant, but my mom brought me here legally. My mom and dad crossed here legally. We are a nation of laws, and it's time that we obey the laws because we are tired of the criminal Democratic Party. They are criminals. And it's a great time to be alive because they have lost 1,000 seats, 12 governorships. They have lost the White House, the Supreme Court. Say no to SB 54. Thank you.
The next speaker is Stella May, to be followed by James Laverty.
Good evening. Where's the timer on this thing? There isn't.
There's lights. Light turns yellow at 30 seconds and red at 10 seconds.
Okay, am I starting now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, sorry. I'm here representing the concerned citizens of California. I'm a local, and just FYI, to require somebody to identify where they live, et cetera, that's a Brown Act violation. Also, borderlines on federal statute, which makes a crime to abuse your power under color of law. You might want to confer with Mayor Ron. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but anyway, the folks that are here on this brochure that I have, this is just a smattering, a small percentage of our citizenry, the children that had dreams but that have been snuffed out. Where was their sanctuary? Their dreams have been snuffed out. The poster that I just put on at the beginning, that one is a small fraction. That's MS-13. That woman there lured somebody into a field, and those other fine folks stabbed him 153 times. You talk about MS-13. It is real. It's all over the place. 85 members were dumped into California from MS-13. The list is endless. The number of people that have stood up here and talked, that have been wearing shirts of the people that have been killed by illegal aliens. And by the way, the people that are referring to them as immigrants, if you're an immigrant, that means you're going through the legal process of becoming a naturalized citizen. Illegal alien is codified. It's in all of the laws. And the gentleman that talked about he didn't know anything about, or he would like to know more about criminal alien arrests, I have in front of me just a smattering of information. Criminal versus non-criminal alien arrests. An administrative arrest of a criminal alien is literally the arrest of an alien with a known criminal conviction. From January 20th to September 30th, 2017, ICE arrested from a total of 29 total categories in 110,568 total arrests, 105,736 aliens with known criminal convictions, including homicide, kidnapping, commercialized sex offenses, other sex offenses, weapons offenses, dangerous drugs, sexual assault, other assault. Literally 92% of all of those arrests were illegal alien criminals, okay? Please vote for the resolution to stop all things sanctuary. And by the way, I've read all of the amicus briefs. I lost count after 30. I read the original one filed by Jeff Sessions. AB 450, AB 103, and SB 54 are horrendous. And I can't wait until it gets to the Supreme Court where...
We're out of time, unfortunately.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is James Laverty, to be followed by Arvid Anderson.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of City Council for giving me this opportunity to speak. I've been a resident of Temecula for the last 6 years, and one of the first people to invite to sort of make me feel at home was Marianne Edwards. I want to thank you, Marianne. I'm here to speak in favor of SB 54. A little bit about myself. I served in Vietnam with the 101st Airborne Division in 1968 and 69 as a linguist. When I came home 6 years later, because I could speak Vietnamese, I was asked to come and volunteer for the Red Cross when 175,000 Vietnamese refugees came to this country. That led to a 37-year career with the American Red Cross. And during my whole career, I worked with refugees, asylum seekers, and every time there was a wave from Eastern Europe, Africa, Albania, there was a furor and fear in our country. And it never seemed to pan out. Just look at the history. Now, I'm not a political person. I happen to believe that politics is about morality, and I might have a different morality than your morality, but I respect your morality. And it's about values. And what I hope that you consider tonight is, one, make sure, and I would request that you look at the data and not listen to a lot of emotional, unsubstantiated feelings. Look at the data and also think about empathy and humanity above fear. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Arvid Anderson, to be followed by Evelyn Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Arvid Anderson. I'm from Hemet. I've lived there since 1986. I'd like to bring up a small piece of local sad history. At 0730 on June 3rd of 1992, parents and students were being dropped off at Temecula Valley High School. An illegal alien driving a Suburban with 13 illegal aliens plowed through the intersection, killing 4 students and a parent. I'm sure any of you that have lived here longer than 22 years can remember the incident, because I live way out there in the sticks and I remember it distinctly. This is an example of a lawbreaker fleeing ICE and plowing through this town and killing the residents of this community. This isn't the first time or the last time it's happened. It's been a while, and we've forgotten our history. We all need to remember local history also. In 1956, my in-laws immigrated from Chihuahua, Mexico, to New Mexico, Arizona, where my wife was born, and they finally settled in Ventura County. They owned their own home and became U.S. citizens in 1997. They were grateful for the opportunity of becoming U.S. citizens. We're now being asked to support SB 54, a sanctuary law that is unconstitutional, and none of us had a voice in drafting. Illegal immigration affects us all, every one of us Californians, from overcrowded prisons and schools, congested freeways and roads, even to voter fraud in our electoral system. 1 in 5 inmates in federal prison are foreign-born, and of those, 90% are illegal aliens. In California, 11 counties have more registered voters than are eligible to vote. That's affront to the rule of law. Illegal immigration also costs us an additional $23 billion a year in taxes. That's something that could be spent for local infrastructure, roads, better schools, better law enforcement, and maybe fixing our dilapidated water system. Finally, I urge you to consider adopting an opt-out ordinance for the city of Temecula and joining the amicus brief. Thank you very much for your time and support. Thank you.
The next speaker is Evelyn Robinson, to be followed by Alan Garachi.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I prepared a statement for you, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But I want to say is that I oppose SB 54 because it's illegal, because of illegal immigration. I believe that it's killing our country and is stifling our constitutional laws. Illegal immigration is tearing our country down and is immoral for our government to let invaders come into this country and not enforce our laws. They need to be dealt with severe consequences for damaging our state and our country. California has never seen such dirty, filthy, and lawlessness that I've ever witnessed. I was born here. I lived in Pasadena, I live locally, and I've also visited Temecula. My personal story is not one of death. You see I'm wearing a shirt for DeAndrew Mitchell. Janet also spoke about this person, and this is the detriment situation to us. But what I want to say is that I personally interact with the illegal community every single day. I live in LA County. When I go to work, I'm on the train, I'm on the bus, and I am harassed because of the color of my skin from people that are not born in this country, who do not like African Americans or blacks. And I'm telling you, I also work with them. So I deal with this every single day. This is not fair to me. I am a person that was born here. I believe in that Constitution. I believe that everyone that is American has a right. But we should not have to accept people that are not born in this country. They do not like our laws. They do not want to be here. What they want is to take from the American people, invade our country, and then have everything to themselves and then discriminate against the people that were born here. This is wrong. We need to stand up together, and we need to make a stand to come together and say no more. This is it. You are not coming in this country, and you are not coming in here illegally. Go and stand in line like everyone else and come here, and then you will be respected from American citizens. There's no discrimination here. Now, people want to look at me and say, okay, you're Republican. I voted for Donald Trump, and I'm going to vote for him again because he is looking out for our country. He stands up for us, and this is what we need today. We need everybody to get together and stand up, and please vote no. Do not accept SB 54. Do not. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
The next speaker is Alan Garassi, to be followed by Kathy Robinson.
Good evening, distinguished mayor and city council members. My name's Alan Gerasi. I live in San Marcos, but I am a former city prosecutor for the city of San Diego and a consumer attorney at present, representing consumers all throughout San Diego, Riverside, and Orange County. I thought when I came in today that I was attending a congressional town hall meeting on immigration policy. I know that you know that that's not what we're here for today. Many people spoke against and for what they deemed to be a bill. This is not a bill. The California Values Act is the law of the state of California. And the two paradoxes that I wish to highlight about what I've heard here tonight is, one, the people standing up here to ask you to vote in favor of this resolution also cite to you that we are a nation of laws. Well, if we are a nation, a state, and a city of laws, then we have to realize that the California Values Act, not SB 54, the California Values Act is the law of the state. If you don't like the law of the state, there are ways to change the law of the state. You go to Sacramento, you lobby your position, or you sue in court, and we call that due process of law. Secondly, this is an issue of public safety, I hear. I'm very proud to read and understand that Temecula Safe is a high priority for this city, and that you have prioritized public safety in all of your deliberations and your ordinances, and that's commendable. However, the California Values Act is a law in favor of public safety. As a former prosecutor, I have prosecuted many cases where I have had to put on witnesses, and I don't ask them their immigration status. I ask them what they heard and saw about a crime. And that is what was important. I've convicted many, many criminals with regard to witnesses that have come forward without regard to being deported. So asking prosecutors, asking law enforcement, asking teachers, asking hospital administrators, what is their priority? Their priority is to do their job, to do it well, and to do it without the conflict of the public policy of a chaotic nation. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Kathy Robinson, to be followed by Sean Doles.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. My name is Kathy Robinson, and I'm a native Californian. I've lived here all my life, and I'm a proud American. I love this country. I love my flag. I love my Constitution. And, by the way, I was born on Flags Day, so I really love this country. I am totally for secure borders. I'm for safety. I'm for the Constitution. I'm against SB 54. Democrats, Jerry Brown, Becerra, they have failed us. They say how much they speak for the Americans. Well, you know what? They don't speak for me. They don't know me. My kids are multicultural. I have 4 kids. I consider myself to be very blessed. My kids are part, Black, Asian, Hispanic. I love everybody. I have a strong Christian, background. I raised my kids in Burbank. I feel like I'm very blessed. The stuff that's going on right now is horrible. SB 54 is just like voting for criminals. And so I'm totally against it. By the way, I know a lot of people won't like this, but if you have crossed the borders illegally, guess what? You're a criminal. Every last one of you are criminals. And that is unfair to the people that have waited in line. If you want to come to this country, I'm so for you, but don't cross our borders. This law right here, this is basically saying, we want criminals to be released. We agree, and it hurts my heart to see all these children and families that have gotten killed. It hurts my heart because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. What I do hate is this double standard. So I'm an American citizen. If I hit somebody, if I kill somebody, if I run somebody else over, and I'm drunk driving, guess what? I'm going to go to jail. But just because you're an illegal immigrant, you get to get off? I'm sorry, but that's not right. That is totally wrong. I thank you so much for listening to me. Please vote. Don't vote for this. Be against this because it's not the right thing to do. I thank you so much. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Trump. And God bless our Constitution. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sean Doles, to be followed by David Lander.
Good evening, Your Honor, the Mayor, members of the Council. My name is Sean Doles. I'm a Temeculan. I graduated from Temecula Valley High School. In fact, Jeff Stone talked at my high school graduation. I had pizza with Mr. Nagar once. My grandfather fought in the Second World War. He lost a hand on Iwo Jima. Because of that, my mother was able to go to university, and I was able to go to university. And at college, I was taught about the nullification crisis, which happened in our country in the 19th century. I'm not sure if the attorney who spoke previously knows about this, but what happened was state laws passed faux laws that said we didn't have to listen to what the federal government said. The result of that was civil war, the worst thing that ever happened in our nation's history. I'm afraid that our governor and the people that represent us in Sacramento are not Democrats. They are not Republicans. They are postmodernist Marxists. And I will leave you with this quote from Ronald Reagan, who visited our city when he was still alive. He said that communism can only work in 2 places: in heaven, where they don't need it, and in hell, where they already have it. Thank you.
The next speaker is David Lander, to be followed by John Willis.
Folks, we're almost done with public comment, so just hold it together.
Okay.
Just a few more minutes.
Yes. Good evening. David Lander. I've lived in the city of Temecula for nearly 30 years. I served on the city council in Los Alamitos for 8 years in another lifetime, 1978 to 86. I used to say that with pride. I still love the city of Los Alamitos, but now I say it with embarrassment. I can tell you that I understand it was a 4-1 vote there. If I were still on the council, at the very least, it would be a 3-2 vote, and I think it would have been loud enough to have defeated this. I'm not prepared to discuss the specifics of SB 54, but I would like to address the symbolism. You know, what this symbolizes, we see families pulled apart. They talk about family values. The family value now is having babies held in custody, pulled away from their parents, who are going to grow up with this kind of trauma. This is the sort of thing that this symbolizes. This is the sort of thing, I'm sure you're going to pass it tonight, but it's the sort of thing that in future years we are going to look at with shame. And by the way, Mr. Mayor, the audience was told, no big demonstrations. I do believe that a sign up commenting on what somebody is saying is violation of the council's rules.
The next speaker is John Willis, to be followed by Fred McIntosh.
Good evening. I am not a resident of your fair city. What I am is a father of 6 children from 4 to 40. I'm also the grandfather of 22 grandchildren from 3 months to 20 years of age. So I am a dreamer. I dream that they could stay in California. I've already had my one daughter and her 7 kids move to Texas. And there's many reasons for it. SB 54 would be one of them. SB 54 is only protecting one group: lawless criminals, foreign nationals. I don't know where they derive their due process from, and I really don't know why we're even considering protecting them in any shape or form. I would like you to consider this opt-out measure because, our president has appointed Jeff Sessions to be our Attorney General, and he's said it numerous times: zero tolerance for illegal border incursions. Our state has nullified this federal law just like the Confederates did back in the 1860s. You saw how that worked out. It was a bad idea. I would like my children and grandchildren to be able to stay in this beautiful state. I have one daughter who's a teacher. She just got her credentials. She saved up a few dollars. She asked me, well, gee, Dad, where do you think I should get a job teaching and buy a home? This is one of the first places I thought of. It's a beautiful place. The schools are fairly good for California. The crime stats are really good, 20% lower than cities of comparable numbers. But the violent crime numbers, 76% lower than comparable populated cities. I didn't know this. One of the first men that spoke tonight talked about the border control being the third arm of your law enforcement agency. That might have something to do with it. I don't know. But I would consider you to stay on the right side of the law and not be on the wrong side of the law. Thank you.
The next speaker is Fred McIntosh, to be followed by Dura Young.
Hello, I'm Fred McIntosh. SB 54 is an overreach from Sacramento that puts citizens as well as legal and illegal immigrants in greater danger. And here's why. The two major loopholes in SB 54 are criminals are repeat drunk drivers and narcotic smugglers/dealers. The U.S. Federal Sentencing Commission is allowed to ask illegal immigrants their immigration status that are criminals, and they found out that illegals are 3.7 times more likely to be picked up for drug dealings than U.S. citizens and legal immigrants. Collecting facts that are ethical can be very important when making ethical decisions. The side in favor of SB 54 is concerned about crime reporting from undocumented illegals and that would generate fear, hate, and division in the community. This is a misconception. I've checked the local law enforcement policies, and the sheriffs have not asked witnesses that come forward to report crime their immigration status in the past 30 years. People should be aware of how the law works. You, as a city council, can take a stand on this case that will be appealed most likely in the 9th District Court, and at this time you can take action by applying an amicus brief. This will remove the barriers imposed by SB 54 that will allow the proper coordination between local law enforcement and ICE, making the city more safe for those who reside. This also sends a message that stopping drugs in our schools and also maybe cut back on the amount of drunk drivers are from illegals. Thank you very much for your time.
The next speaker is Dura Young, to be followed by Greg Britton.
Hello, City Council. My name is Dura Young, and I oppose SB 54. The federal government has a responsibility of protecting our nation and supporting our Constitution. Kevin De Leon co-authored the Sanctuary State Law to prevent immigration enforcement inside of jails for misdemeanor crimes. The California State Sheriff's Association remains opposed to the bill because it only addresses 80% of the crimes. Your law enforcement is forced to ignore the other 20% of the crimes with SB 54. Some of the crimes that fall into the loophole factor are human trafficking, smuggling, narcotic trafficking by drug cartels, domestic violence, and repeat drunk driving. California politicians must stop obstructing federal law. Any politician who is not representing our citizens, the U.S. Constitution, and federal laws have actively conspired to disrupt any attempt by the federal government to enforce our immigration laws. Every citizen has a right to be protected by federal law. We are not responsible for failed nations from Mexico, South America, or whatever country. As California taxpayers, we are gifting illegal aliens $23 billion per year. Why aren't we taking care of our veterans and our homeless with that $23 billion? As a city official, you have taken an oath to protect the citizens of Temecula, and this is about the safety of American citizens. Send a clear message with the amicus brief.
The next speaker is Greg Britton, to be followed by Carolyn Hayes.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. From Redlands, California, I came here because criminals don't observe the boundaries of cities any more than they observe the boundaries of nations. The underlying issue, of course, is immigration and whether America should have and enforce immigration laws. For decades, the answers of the Washington politicians and the Sacramento politicians has been no. That regardless of the cost to Americans, we talked about those tonight, $25 billion to California taxpayers, more than $100 billion to federal taxpayers. You've seen the crime victims on these white shirts tonight. Those crime victims include a total of 66,000 Americans that have been killed by illegal aliens since the year 2000. Those crime victims also include my friend Agnes Gibney's son. She couldn't be here tonight. He was murdered by a previously deported illegal immigrant. And you hear so much talk about children being separated from their parents. Well, her son is separated from her by 6 feet of dirt because the politicians refuse to enforce our immigration laws. So brazen is the Democrats in Sacramento's support of illegal immigration that they passed SB 54, which applies only to criminal illegal aliens. It doesn't apply to people at the hospital, it doesn't apply to school children, it doesn't apply to witnesses. It only applies to and protects criminal illegal aliens. And we know that crime is on the increase in California because of AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57. American criminals were stuck with. Once they've done their time, they have to get released. But if you're an illegal immigrant who should not be here at all in the first place, why would we want to keep a single illegal alien criminal in the country to commit more crimes? Why should you guys take this up? Because first and foremost, the duty of government is to protect the citizens. And when you release more criminals, they're going to commit more crimes. You want to push back on this unconstitutional law. Already 43 California cities and 12 counties have adopted resolutions. And you can take one step further. You can file an amicus brief in the lawsuits to hold this unconstitutional law unconstitutional and protect your citizens and all citizens of California. There was talk tonight about empathy. But people will say that it's only empathy for the illegal aliens. It is never about empathy for the people you see on those white T-shirts. It is never about empathy for Agnes Gibboney and her son. Show them empathy. Thank you.
The next speaker is Carolyn Hayes, to be followed by our last speaker, Dr. Newman.
Council members, my name is Carolyn Hayes. I am a proud citizen of this country. I'm very happy to respect and obey our laws. I also respect the Constitution of the United States, which protects us and takes care of our safety. Laws have to be followed if we are to have a successful society. When we do not obey our laws, chaos follows. I am an instructor at Mount San Jacinto Community College, Menifee campus. I had the privilege of having a student walk into my class using canes to make it to his seat. On his back was strapped medication that was constantly fed into his body. He was a patrol agent right here at the Border Patrol in Temecula. He had been shot. His life would be forever changed. He came to our class to try to prepare himself to do something else. This is a sample of the chaos that happens when we do not respect and obey laws. SB 54, making California a sanctuary state, violates everything that we stand for. It violates the Constitution of the United States, which is the supreme law of the land. As a former speaker has said, SB 54 is probably the most serious act of sedition that we have had in our country since the Civil War. There are now 12 counties and 43 or more cities that have stood up against SB 54. They have signed either the amicus brief or passed ordinances. And you here as council members all took the oath to uphold and protect the United States Constitution. I ask that you live up to this oath that you took and live up to your word. Pass the resolution proposed here tonight that opposes SB 54.
The last speaker is Dr. Newman.
Dr. Newman, you get the last word this evening. Make it count.
Most definitely. Thank you. I want to say in the very beginning that I'm very impressed with how this city council and the people in the audience have responded to your direction to maintain civility in this meeting. I have spoken to many city councils, sheriff's departments, police departments, and visited jails. And the illegal aliens and their sympathizers have caused pandemonium in those meetings, stood up on chairs, yelled and screamed obscenities as the dais is emptied. This was a meaningful experience tonight, and I want to thank the staff also for putting up with this extensive presentation. You have heard that the 6th article of the U.S. Constitution, paragraph 2, states that the U.S. government it has a supremacy clause that reigns supreme. SB 54 is in violation of federal law. We will suffer the consequences for decisions made by our legislature. So SB 54 and others preceding it and succeeding that law are null and void according to the Constitution. Now, I want to also say that many members here, and I am one of them, that have been involved in the Remembrance Project. We have been with our president on a number of occasions, and our president wants laws to prevail in this country. We of the Remembrance Project have supported the families whose loved ones have been murdered. I do remember that case that occurred in that high-speed chase in Temecula. That made me aware of things back then. I want to say then that I'm active as a research clinical psychologist collecting data on the reaction of loved ones to the loss of a family member. And that's alien trauma syndrome. The American Psychological Association and the American Psychiatric Association has been alerted to do a more extensive study on this particular topic. So I would like you to realize that we need to keep police, law enforcement safe. We need to support safety, protect our families, support our president. Thank you and God bless.
Mr. Mayor, that was actually the last speaker.
Well, before we go to council comments, I wanted to express the same thing our last speaker did. Very respectful dialogue. I appreciate not having to whack the gavel on you all or flick the lights on and off like I do with kids in my class. This was a very robust, I think, discussion this evening. It takes tremendous courage for you all to do what you did here this evening, particularly those who spoke for those who do not have a voice or those who were fearful of coming to tonight's meeting and expressing their voice. So we really do appreciate everyone this evening having respect for one another and keeping the level of decorum we did. And this is truly, I think, the best of how we appreciate each other and interact here in the city of Temecula. So now you can all give each other a round of applause. Surprisingly, I don't see any of my colleagues in the queue to speak.
How cute.
No.
Can we at least read the ordinance?
Why don't we go ahead? I think that would be a helpful thing. Mr. Comachero requests that we read the ordinance because or the resolution. I'm sorry, the resolution this evening. I think that would be a helpful thing to do because I think there was a lot of statements here this evening that talked about things that are simply just not part of this resolution. And I think it has a very clear statement, and hopefully if we could, please provide us with that.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to read that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Adams.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Temecula opposing efforts by the State of California to restrict collaboration between local and federal law enforcement agencies. Whereas the United States government has plenary authority over foreign policy and immigration laws, which are enforced by and through federal executive agencies. And whereas on October 5th, 2017, Governor Brown signed SB 54, the California Values Act, which became effective January 1, 2018. Whereas Senate Bill 54 limits the involvement of local law enforcement agencies in federal immigration enforcement by placing certain restrictions on the sharing of information and use of department money or personnel for immigration enforcement purposes. And whereas the City of Temecula, as a contract city for law enforcement, met with the sheriff and district attorney expressing concerns related to Senate Bill 54. And whereas the top law enforcement official overseeing our law enforcement contract has pronounced Riverside County is not a sanctuary county, nor is Temecula a sanctuary city. our local and state law enforcement still routinely cooperates with ICE and other federal law enforcement partners within the guidelines of the law, Senate Bill 54, while a number of California agencies do not cooperate at all with ICE sanctuary. And whereas the City of Temecula does not support any efforts that impede collaboration and information sharing between local and federal law enforcement officials. And whereas Senate Bill 54 is one of several pieces of legislation that have significantly affected community policing, along with AB 109, Proposition 47, and Proposition 57, which have also contributed greatly to the difficulty of maintaining a safe community in California. And whereas the city encourages its residents to get involved with state legislation, especially those bills and propositions that may erode public confidence in law enforcement or diminish our resolve to protect our community. And whereas the City Council of the City of Temecula holds public safety as its highest priority and opposes all measures that threaten this basic community value. Whereas the elected officials of the City of Temecula take this opportunity to further recognize and reaffirm the importance of their oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Temecula does hereby resolve, determine, and order as follows. 1. Section 1, that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Section 2, the city clerk shall certify adoption of the resolution.
Mr. Mayor?
Romachero.
I understand that there was an amendment to that. I leave it to the mayor's discretion, but I would think it would make sense to read that amendment so that we can discuss it and see if we want to add it.
Absolutely. The proposed language, so trust me, this is something, and we'll get to our more salient statements on this, but in the resolution, what these are a statement of facts, right? A statement of current status of the City of Temecula and our law enforcement officials as a contract city with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. And in sort of discussion of this, one of the things that was perceived to be missing in the resolution was a basic statement at the end. And so as part of the resolution, we're proposing the following language, and if you need, I'll read it or just hand it over to you, or Aaron's got a copy. But it basically says, resolved that the City of Temecula's highest priority is public safety, and we support and encourage all efforts to maintain and improve the coordination and cooperation of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department with all state and federal agencies, recognizing the importance of defending the Constitution of the United States and the sovereignty granted therein.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. I see Mr. Stewart is in the queue first.
All right. So I'll start off. This is not about immigration, by the way. For anybody who's out there that thinks we're trying to stop people from immigrating, I think we need more immigrants, to be honest with you. We need to have a higher number of immigrants just to keep up with the jobs that are being created. However, they need to do it right. They have to go. Congress needs to fix this. This is not a city or a state. This is a federal issue. Congress needs to get off their you-know-whats and fix the situation to allow immigration to take place. Now, I understand there's a lot of vetting that needs to be taking place, and I totally agree with that. I don't want just anybody walking through, the border. But there is a way to fix this, and Congress can do this if they put their minds to it. So, first off, let's take that off the thing. This is not about immigration. This is about protecting our people, our borders, our state, our country. So, and like was said over and over again, the state of California does not have the authority over the borders. They don't have authority to do what they just did. So, in my opinion, what we just read is exactly my mindset. We are just upholding what the federal government is supposed to be doing. But that being said, with crime increasing the way it's increasing, I don't know why we're not upset and knocking the doors down of Sacramento on AB 109 and Prop 47 and 57. That is what's causing our crime in our communities. So we need to get to these assemblymen, state senators, governors, and we need to straighten this out. This is our big problem. This whole immigration is a very minute, in my opinion, of safety of the city of Temecula. So, and I do applaud Mr. Busto. I mean, 10 years it took him to get into this country. Amen. You know what? There's Chinese immigrants that I know of that it takes forever to get here too. I mean, but I'll tell you, once you get here, you love this country. You put in that time, you put in that effort because you want to be an American. And that's the person I want to see walk through my doors and be a constituent. And, you know, they're going to be the homeowners. They're going to be the ones who are, you know, going for that American dream. So, and I think it's not fair for the illegal immigrant either, because the illegal immigrant, he's hiding in corners. Why should he be hiding in corners? You know, he's afraid of being deported. So he can't live that American dream the way he should. And that's why he needs to do it right. They need to come in through the front door. They can't come in through the window or the back door. So that's why I support this resolution. And this resolution is not a law, by the way. People think, you know, we're making a law. We're not making a law. This just says we support what the Constitution says, that the federal government has the authority over our borders. Done.
Thank you. Mr. Comachero.
Wait a minute. What happened
are
to
you?
me?
There you are, Miss Edwards. Sorry, skipped over you.
That's okay. Well, it isn't really, but, you know. So, how many of you got up and said this is a nation of laws? And it truly is a nation of laws. But we have state laws, and we have local laws, and we have federal laws. And in the instance where state law is in direct opposition and, in fact, mandates that cities and counties, municipalities violate federal law, it's just wrong. This SB 54 is telling us you must violate federal law. Now, you heard the resolution that we're going to be approving tonight, and there were lots of whereases and therefores in there, but in a nutshell, we contract with Riverside County Sheriff, and it's a great agency, and our police department is second to none, and that's one of the things that makes Temecula the 15th safest city in this nation. So what we're voting on tonight is not going to change anything, because Riverside County Sheriff Stan Sniff has already said that they comply with federal law. Therefore, Temecula police officers comply with federal law and have always complied with federal law. So if any of you are in the audience and I have traded emails with you about SB 54, that's what I've said. Our police department, contracted with Riverside County, has always upheld federal law, and Sheriff Sniff has said they will continue to do so. So by taking this resolution, we are just verbalizing, really, probably what we've been telling you all along in the email exchanges that we've had. It is a matter of public safety for the city of Temecula. I do not want to be asked to take any tools off the table that are going to help me keep people safe in my city. And we're very fortunate that crime is low. But the reason crime is low is because we are proactive and we plan ahead and we staff a police department, like I said, that is second to none. So California is broken. It truly is broken until California and the federal government can resolve the issues that they have over immigration. We will continue the course that we have always maintained, and that is to work with all the law enforcement agencies that we can to keep our residents safe. So thank you.
All right. Mr. Comachero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To expand a little bit on my colleague, Ms. Edwards, it's true that the sheriff of this county, who is our lead policeman, in deference to our captain, whether or not to enforce state law or federal law is his decision to make, and he has made the decision to honor the Constitution and enforce federal law, and as the Constitution tells us in the Supremacy Clause, that does take precedence over state law. So in my mind, he's doing the right thing, the legal thing. So whether we consider a resolution tonight or we don't, whether we pass it or we don't, means nothing. Except what it does mean, though, is that we stand shoulder to shoulder with other cities in the state of California and let everybody know, not just in California, but in the nation, that we support the law. And that's really all it is. So for those of you who came here tonight thinking that we're going to change the world here tonight, we're not. But we're making a statement. I really found it very disheartening over the last week or two, once this agenda item was published, with some of the emails that we received, and we got a lot of them, and they were on both sides of the issue, as you might expect. Not all were respectful. They don't need to be respectful of us. We can handle it. But respectful of the American citizens, and that was disheartening. I was very glad to see that that didn't come in to this chamber tonight. So I agree with Mayor Ron and applaud all of you for being respectful tonight. We can all have our opinion and talk to each other, but still do it with respect. To me, although immigration is a highly complex issue, nobody's going to say it's simple. What we're contemplating here tonight is simple. What are we doing? We have a history in this city of supporting the Constitution, as we all took an oath to do. We've long dealt with the issue of cannabis, marijuana, and certainly more so in this last year. And what have we decided? Very same issue. That cannabis is illegal at the federal level. Now maybe that's going to change. There's been a recent ruling. But it's still the law of the land that cannabis is illegal in the United States. Citizens passed Prop 64, making it legal in California. Still a conflict. And so what have we done as a city? We've chosen to honor the federal Constitution and continue the ban on cannabis except in certain medicinal areas, which is not a change from what we've done in the past. So this is no different. Here we are faced with an identical issue. Immigration aside, I hate those images of babies in cages just like all of you do. But that's not our issue here tonight. All we're really deciding is, are we going to stand up as a city and say, we honor the Constitution and we understand that the Constitution of the United States takes precedence over the Constitution and the laws of the state of California. Simple issue. That's all I have.
And Mr. Nagard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank everybody for the cordiality here today. And boy, over the years, we've heard many complex issues and many controversial issues. This is one of the best behaved crowds, most respectful crowds that we've seen in any of those issues. I'm not going to be redundant in a lot of the things that were said because I don't think they need to be said twice. But very interesting. I never thought I would have to tell this story ever, but it sort of seems like it's an appropriate time to sort of give another point of view. My father used to tell me a story of when he came to this country. He was a merchant marine in the Egyptian merchant marines, and they went around making their rounds, and when they pulled into New York Harbor, he saw the Statue of Liberty and all the things that he had heard about America. And this is circa 1946, mind you. All the things he had heard about America, the land of opportunity, the things that you could do, what the land afforded you, all came washing over him when he saw that Statue of Liberty. It was a representation of everything that he had heard. And he told the story that when he went ashore, like all the seamen, he couldn't bring himself to go back. he became an illegal alien. Okay, it's a true story. And in doing my genealogy research, I actually came up with the warrant that was issued for his arrest. I have it here. 1948, an arrest warrant was issued for his arrest. And rather, the conflict of wanting to be here, but also the deep, deep, deep desire of wanting to be an American, okay, washed over him. So he submitted himself for deportation. And a funny thing happened in submitting himself, for deportation was the court granted him leave to apply for a visa. And if he left the country legally, in 1 week he would be able to return with that visa and then proceed to apply for his immigration status. That's what happened to him. He eventually became a citizen. So, I never really thought I would have to tell that story. And, one day if anybody wants to see the documents, they're very interesting. I have them here. I was going to put them on the overhead, but frankly, they're very personal. So it's not something I necessarily want to share with the world and the internet.
Yeah.
But I will go on even further. My whole family is a family of immigrants. My wife is from the Philippines. And they applied for citizenship when she was 8 years old. And it took 10 years for that citizenship to come through. And in order, I remember her telling me this story, that when she finally, their whole family, my in-laws and her sister and brother, got approved to come here, it was 2 weeks before her 18th birthday. That meant that they had to immediately leave or start the petition process over again. So literally the family uprooted themselves, had to leave almost everything behind in the Philippines and come here. True story. Also, it's very interesting, we don't talk about this much, but even today, back then, but even today, if you apply for legal citizenship and you petition for a green card status, you have to show support for yourself. You have to have somebody sign that says they will support you, that you will not go on aid, that you will not take whatever you want to call it, social aid, government aid, what have you, that the person, that you have a place to live, and that who you're going to go be with certifies that they will take responsibility for you. That is a fact. It's a fact today that I don't think we really talk about too much. So when her family came here, they had to not only have a place to stay, but it was a sister, had to sign that she would be financially responsible for the whole family. Of course, when they got here, they all got jobs. They were all great to be in America. It's just a really fantastic immigrant story. So I turn out to be a first-generation American. Okay, that is a wonderful thing. And here I sit as almost a 20-year council member. That is a wonderful thing. Lastly, I'll tell you, so much of an American that my Egyptian father, he wanted to be such an American, he named his kids Carol, Richard, Nancy, Lori, Michael. Okay, you get it? All right, and that was what it was about, to be an American. He ended up, he got a job, he raised 5 kids, bought a home, everybody went off on their way. For what it's worth, it was an American success story. I don't want to belabor that point, but it's just the law, and it's just the law, and that's where I stand on the issue.
All right. So, Mike, thank you so much for sharing that. It gives, I think, me and I know my colleagues and everyone out there a different, and I think a good perspective on you and your family. Thank you. So we find ourselves at a bit of a crossroads here this evening, not by our doing, not by our choosing, and not by our making. This one was created for us, and at its core, in my perspective and that of, I know, my colleagues, is public safety. Public safety certainly is our top priority in the city. It's stated as our mission, of course, as any city, but we recognize it in particular this year under the banner of Temecula Safe. Make no mistake, everyone sitting here today swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and all the laws under which we need to abide. The challenge to us today is that there's a bit of a disconnect in how our federal and state government choose to manage local government and our relationship with law enforcement and public safety. Temecula is a wonderful city. It was mentioned earlier by Ms. Edwards that we're the 15th safest in the country. That wasn't an accident, right? That didn't just happen overnight. There were decisions made, and those decisions, I think, are very fundamental to who we are as a community. Our history in the city has been and continues to be one of thoughtful and equitable decision-making, providing the highest level of public safety and protection, the resources to be able to do so, and also seeking a balance for equity, personal freedoms, and justice. That's at our core of what we try to do. But this isn't an easy task. It was mentioned earlier, AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57. Rolling back of felonies to misdemeanors, early release of those that are incarcerated, to the tune of nearly 45,000 early released prisoners in Riverside County alone in the last 10 years. 45,000. Stunning. We have a unique challenge ahead of us, and these challenges are not, again, by our doing. Rolling back violent felonies and felonies to misdemeanors, do we consider drive-by shootings a violent act? Absolutely. California no longer considers that a violent act. There was a point, fortunately, that was rolled back where the theft of a firearm was no longer a felony conviction. Fortunately, they saw it proper to change that. But we are changing a lot of our laws, and our inherent struggle now is finding ways for law enforcement to be able to respond to those changes and at the same time uphold their duty to our Constitution and our state laws and the policies of Riverside County Sheriff, Mr. Sniff. And so it places us in a bit of a unique position. We certainly, as these laws and propositions are passed, we certainly don't want to erode the public's confidence in public safety and our law enforcement because we have some of the best folks, dedicated public servants, keeping our community safe and placing their lives on the line every single day. And we have tremendous respect for those hardworking men and women of our police department and the law enforcement agencies throughout this state and county. And so when we are faced with, challenges like this, I want it to be, very clear. Myself and Mr. Adams, our city attorney or city manager, we did quite a bit of homework and had several meetings. We even hosted a regional meeting with all public safety agencies, and we have been doing this for quite some time. I know part of the consternation within the community was what our position was with regard to SB 54, and when this started to come to a head, the first letter that I had penned and sent out to many of you in the audience asking questions, we did with the consent of the rest of the council. This wasn't just my opinion, this was the council's sort of policy on this. But one of the things we said in that first letter was we need to do our due diligence. We need to meet with the sheriff's department. We need to meet with those in corrections. We need to meet with our district attorney. We need to understand this situation better. We're not relying on the rhetoric of what we read in the newspapers or see on television or the statements made by other cities. We are going to understand this for ourselves before we make a decision. And we did that. And I think, Mr. Adams, thank you so much for joining me on that, because that was a lot of time spent really putting, our effort into understanding this and not just regurgitating the same rhetoric and statements that are out there, but truly coming to an understanding of the issue. Sadly, what we all talk about here and what's, put on websites or in the press or, the news tends to be more about politics and less about fact. What this reminds me of is when I was in law school, I had the opportunity to work in the family courts. And if you haven't had the opportunity, it's certainly an eye-opening experience. Family court often brought out the worst in good people because there was a lot of passion, a lot of emotion, and a lot of very important issues facing folks who dealt with, a very contentious, a very important time in their lives. And that's what's, I sort of equate today to that, right? Mom and dad, our state and federal government, aren't acting particularly nice to one another. And unfortunately, we're placed in the middle of this, and we're being asked a very simple question: who do you love more, mom or dad? And the answer is we love them both dearly, right? I love the state of California. I love the United States of America. And I know that we all do, sitting up here, hope to find an equitable and reasonable solution to their argument right now. Placing cities and counties in the middle of this argument is unfair, just patently unfair. And so the statement that we make tonight and what we say to our community and to our state and indeed to the rest of the country is that our first and foremost obligation to the city of Temecula is public safety. And very carefully read that resolution. Read it, what it is that we're actually doing here tonight. We are upholding that Constitution. We are upholding the principles that bind our city and the promise we made to our community with regard to public safety. That is what we are here to do tonight. The rest of it, that's a debate best held at the Supreme Court and between the state of California, our governor, and the President of the United States. And we'll see how that all irons out over the coming months. But given the amount of consternation and the amount of concern in our community and certainly in the region, we thought it was important that not just, I pen a letter to our community saying that, plainly we are not a sanctuary city, and because we are a contract with Riverside County Sheriffs, we are not a contract, or we are not a sanctuary county. Those are obvious statements. But the letter wasn't enough. Folks wanted to see a resolution, so we brought that forward. And we basically restated exactly what was put into all of those letters and what we all talked about over the past several months. And so it's because of that I think we're here tonight. I want to be also clear on a couple other points. This resolution, as passed, is not breaking any laws. We're simply passing a resolution. We're simply making a statement about, mom and dad, right? And about our desire to make sure that they come to a resolution on this and that we uphold public safety as our highest principle and our highest responsibility for our city. This is an affirmation, and with that, I would be happy to have someone make a motion on this item. Mr. Comachero.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, that was very eloquent and well stated. So I appreciate those comments. And I'm happy to make the motion that we support the United States Constitution and support and pass the resolution that was before us tonight as amended.
Second.
Third.
All right. A motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Okay, thank you. That passes 5-0. We still have an action-packed agenda this evening, and I'm going to allow the Community Services District meeting to come to order. Mr. Comachero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You caught me off guard with that. Now I have to find my agenda. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting. You know what? Why don't we just take a couple of minutes here to just let things settle down, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay. So we don't need to
We'll take a 5-minute break at your request.
Okay. 5-minute break.
Yeah, please, 5-minute break. Appreciate this, everyone.
And if you're leaving us, please do so quietly and let us get back to business. Thank you. We have some order in the chamber. If you're on your way out, please continue. And colleagues, can we get started? Restarted? Hey, Nam. How are you? Okay, I'd like to once again call this meeting of the Temecula Community Service District to order. Madam Clerk, we're all back and all here, so I don't think we need to take the roll. Do we have any public comment under this portion?
We do not.
God bless you. Only one item under consent calendar this evening. That's item 20, to approve the action minutes of June 12th, 2018.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The motion does carry unanimously. Kevin, got anything quick for us?
Yeah, Mr. President, a very quick reminder to join us for our Temecula Safe 4th of July extravaganza. Kick off your Independence Day at 10 a.m. with the Star Spangled Parade in Old Town featuring plenty of marchers, specialty floats, and bands. Continue the celebration at the Ronald Reagan Sports Park with live music, vendors, and a fun zone for kids. In the evening, family fun with the spectacular and patriotic fireworks display starting at 9 p.m. sharp. Let's celebrate Independence Day the Temecula Safeway. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, anything?
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
Do we have any reports from our directors? No. Seeing none, just a shout out to Penny Pickles celebrating their 14th anniversary. Seems like only yesterday.
It does.
And with that, we'll accept a motion to adjourn the next meeting of July 10th. So we have a motion and a second. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
All right. We are done with community services. Let's see. Let's go ahead and open the meeting for successor agency to the Temecula Redevelopment Agency meeting. Let's call to order, and all members are still present. Do we have any public comment? Okay, then only item we have is item 21, approve action minutes of June 12, 2018.
Move approval.
Motion, second?
Second.
All right, let's cast our votes. And that passes 5-0. Let's see, Executive Director report.
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
From our directors?
Nope.
All right, we will go ahead and adjourn this to the July 10th meeting at 5:30 for closed session. And moving along, we are going back to City Council business. Reconvene the Temecula City Council meeting. Item number 22, receive presentation from the Western Riverside Council of Governments, WRCOG, on the implementation of a community choice aggregation, CCA, to be called Western Community Energy. And this evening we have Mr. Rick Bishop from WRCOG joining us. Mr. Bishop, thank you for your patience, and I believe we have a presentation.
Thank you.
That I can introduce you again, Rick. That's what I was going to do, so welcome.
Well, that's fine. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and Mr. City Manager, City Attorney, staff, and members of the audience. I'm Rick Bishop. I'm the Executive Director of the Western Riverside Council of Governments, also known as WRCOG. We appreciate the opportunity to provide this brief overview on community choice aggregation programs, which I do know you and your staff are familiar with. But I understand that we do have a short 1-minute video queued up, and so I'll just ask that that be played at this time.
Every day, your communities use electricity to power their lives. But do they know where it comes from? Have they ever had a say about what kind they use? Or how much it costs? Western Community Energy changes all of that by giving the power back to your cities, working with local representation to determine more competitive rates and programs than what residents and business owners are currently paying. Participants can expect to save up to 4% on their bill immediately with no strings attached, simply because their city is participating. And while that 4% may seem nominal in theory, experience has shown us that our residents care about cost savings in any amount. Just ask your local bargain shopper clipping coupons or those waiting in line at the cheapest gas station in town. Residential and commercial savings combined equate to over $50 million over 10 years across Southwest Riverside County. So why wait? Join Western Community Energy today and simply give your residents the option to save more for doing nothing at all. Every day,
So as you can tell, Western Community Energy is the name that's given to the pending CCA that's being developed for Western Riverside County. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce Barbara Spoonhour. Barbara is our Director of CCA Development, so she's been working on this, as I think most of you know, for a long time. So just by background, what is community choice aggregation? It is a law that was enacted by the state legislature several years ago that allows local governments to essentially get into the energy business by being purchasers of energy and then providing it to customers in local jurisdictions, to your residents and to your businesses. It's that simple. It's a law that, believe it or not, actually gives local governments local control. And we all know that as local jurisdictions, that's something that is just very, very important to you and as a policy body to make sure that you have local control. And here's a statute that actually does it. CCAs are not new in California. In fact, the whole idea of local jurisdictions providing energy to their constituents is not new at all. And you can see the data here. I'm not going to go through each one of these statistics, but nearly 60 agencies in California provide power and water to customers. CCAs themselves are not new in California. These data may be out of date. There are 17 operating CCAs in the state. I came across an article just yesterday that indicated there are 20 CCAs. So these are a growing phenomena that is occurring throughout California, and hopefully when I get through with this presentation, you'll see why. They're not only new throughout California, they're not even new in Western Riverside County. The city of San Jacinto is a member of a CCA. The county of Riverside is looking at a CCA, and of course, with the direction of the WRCOG Executive Committee, WRCOG has been exploring very deliberately and very diligently CCA development really since the end of 2015. Here's a map. Again, this map itself is outdated as well, but it does give you an idea of CCA activity that's going on throughout California. There are about 4 million customers in the state that are being served by CCAs. In fact, in Southern California, Edison's territory, jurisdictions that represent about 65% of the population of those jurisdictions are exploring CCA development. Probably the fastest growing CCA is that in our neighbor county, LA County, where about more than 30 jurisdictions have joined the CCA there just in the last year alone. So here's kind of a choropleth map view of what's going on in Western Riverside County. You can see that a few cities operate their own utility, or portions of their constituents are served by their own utility: Riverside, Banning, Moreno Valley. The county of Riverside is looking at a potential CCA launch in the year 2020. And then all the gray areas are jurisdictions where CCA examination is being conducted on your behalf in these other jurisdictions through WRCOG. So WRCOG has been looking at this topic, as I mentioned before, for a long time. We've been very deliberate in our approach here. We did receive authorization from our executive committee in 2016 to take a look at and to develop a feasibility study, which we did. We tried to take a look at all aspects of CCA development as we possibly could. But I think that one thing that was really striking to us and was most important to our elected officials is when it's all said and done in the end, are there savings that can be provided to local residents? And using very conservative assumptions in our feasibility study, the bottom line is that there could be a little more than 4% savings to constituents. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means to your businesses and residents. So based on that feasibility study, we received direction to continue to move forward, to continue to evolve this idea a little bit further, and we have been doing that for really the last year or so. And that has involved developing template JPAs, which would be the entity that would be used to implement a CCA here in Western Riverside County, with all of the legal documentation that would support that. As I mentioned before, the name that's been given to the CCA is Western Community Energy. There is a website that is up and running called westerncommunityenergy.com. I would encourage you and your constituents to visit that website. It's quite informative, we think, with regard to providing answers to frequently asked questions and just some basic primer information on what CCAs do and how we think they can benefit your community. We've also been making a number of presentations to councils throughout the course of the last year or so to try to inform both staff, elected officials, and constituents on what CCAs are and how they would benefit their communities. But I wanted to take just a couple minutes to just provide a real high-level overview of what we think the major benefits are of a CCA for Western Riverside County. The first and foremost, as I mentioned, is rate savings. So what we found in taking a look at the other CCAs that have developed throughout California is that they all have goals. They either have goals of rate savings or emissions reductions, greenhouse gas reductions. And what we found based on this history is that they've all achieved the goals that they've set out to do. As I mentioned, our feasibility study showed a little bit more than a 4% savings. If you want to say that that's too optimistic, then we provided some additional statistics that cut that in half or in fractions, and just to give you just kind of a relative idea of what these savings mean. The one that really strikes us is that the second to last bullet, if you take an average $200 a month utility bill, a 3% savings would result in an annual household savings of $72. Now, what's important about that is that the residents can achieve that savings by doing absolutely nothing. Because when a CCA is formed, the residents then just take charge. They decide whether or not they want to become a member of the CCA or if they want to stay with the existing utility, which here in Southern California is Southern California Edison. And just for purposes of microfocus, in Temecula, a 2% savings in the city translates to about more than $2 million in the annual savings to the community. Now think about that for a minute. Just pause. If the city were to come up with a program where you to say every year we're going to provide our residents over $2 million cash, that would be a pretty popular program. And so here's a program that does just that. With no strings attached, nothing that the residents have to do other than choose to be part of it, or again, they can choose not to. I won't spend much time on this, but that we've also taken that savings for Temecula and have extrapolated it for the other potential participants in Western Community Energy, and you can see that $72 a year doesn't sound like a lot, but then when you add it up over hundreds of thousands of accounts, it becomes quite large in number, and these are dollars that then can be plugged back into the community, and we think that that's really important from an economic development standpoint. The second thing, why are jurisdictions participating in CCAs, and this is something that gives me great comfort, and that is, here's a program that for once we're not implementing on our own. We're not first out. We have the track record that we can lean on. As I mentioned, there are a number of CCAs that exist in the state. There are many more that are slated to launch. This is something that people are very interested in doing. And interestingly, while cities are clamoring to join CCAs, no city has ever dropped out of a CCA. So we think there's a strong track record of existing CCAs performing as they expected, coupled with our feasibility study that shows savings. We think that that's a lot of due diligence that's hard to ignore at this point. The third, and we think this is really important to your constituents, is that a CCA does nothing more than provide them with an additional choice on where they have their energy coming from. Now, a CCA, the distinction is all a CCA does is it purchases energy. A CCA really is a partnership with, in our case, Southern California Edison, because the CCA are the local jurisdictions getting together to purchase the energy, but then Edison is still using their transmission lines to deliver that energy to the residents. And so there's really no visible or noticeable change to how residents are getting their power. It's still being delivered through Edison's transmission line. So it is a partnership that we would be implementing alongside of our local utility. But we think choice is important to residents. But the choice can only be provided if the local jurisdictions at the council level, at the governmental levels, join the CCA and allow that choice to occur. Fourth is local control. I alluded to that earlier. Local control is very important to every jurisdiction, throughout the state of California. In fact, I'm sure Temecula and all of our other cities, at the very top of their legislative platforms, it is clearly stated in no uncertain terms that we will oppose any legislation that takes away local control. And as I mentioned earlier, here's a program that by state law is actually giving you local control, and you don't see that very often. And what it means with local control is that when the CCA forms, you as elected officials now become the bodies that decide how rates are determined. Your constituents now have the opportunity to come to meetings in the local region where the rates are set and have input. Right now the process is Edison's rates are set by the CPUC at meetings in San Francisco. Very difficult to get there, very difficult. And so we think that it's very important to really hit on that aspect, that local control is very important to jurisdictions. Here's a program that actually provides it, coupled with choice. And then it can't be overstated that one of the main reasons for CCAs is the economic engine that apparently exists with these programs. CCAs are clearly good for the economy, and if they weren't, I don't think we'd be seeing the rush of local jurisdictions to pursue it. In fact, when you take a look at most CCA documents, one of the lead statements of these CCAs is that they think it provides economic incentive. In fact, we put a few quotes in there, one from the County of Riverside that's been pursuing a CCA alongside of us for some time, and they clearly recognize the potential economic benefit that comes from this. And we all know that in Western Riverside County, as the executive director of WRCOG, when we have our sessions with our board and we ask our elected officials what's the most important thing for the future of Western Riverside County, economy always comes out at the top. Always comes out at the top. And so we've taken a component-based approach to improving the economy. So from our regional standpoint, if you make improvements to the transportation system, then you're providing opportunities to improve the economy. If you make improvements to the performance of your schools, you're doing the same thing. If you're able to lower the cost of energy, then that becomes an incentive for businesses. And it basically increases local jurisdictions' ability to compete. And as I mentioned before, in LA County, they've got now what is now the largest CCA in the state, and they're one of our neighbors. And so they're boasting that their residents and their businesses are going to be seeing lower rates. It behooves us to take a real serious look and see whether or not we want to compete on energy or not. So we think that's very important. So what's driving our timeline? You all know that right now we are working with our member jurisdictions to consider who wants to be part of the CCA by August 15th. That date we've kind of backed into because we think that it's important for jurisdictions to, in order to have the ability to proceed and be able to provide energy to their residents by 2020, there's a deadline, and the deadline is partly driven by the CPUC. We need to be able to submit an implementation plan to the CPUC by January 1st. And so we're looking for our jurisdictions who are interested in joining to join, but I'm going to say this. What we're asking for is a join now, commit later option. And what we mean by that is we're looking to have jurisdictions consider joining the JPA right now. And the reason for that is because we want to be able to then launch our consultants into doing a reset on the energy savings. So they're going to take a look at our feasibility study, which was done a year ago and said 4% savings. We want them to take a look at that again. We also want to be able to factor in additional charges and outcomes from the CPUC as it regards PCIA charge. You may have heard that before. And so we're going to have a better handle on information. So we need that process to occur. It's rechecking our calibrations, our calculations to make sure that the savings that we anticipate in our feasibility study are still there. That's going to take a couple months. And once that takes a couple months, then we'll be asking the local jurisdictions to, again, they have an off-ramp. Do you want to continue? If they continue, then we're going to cobble all those jurisdictions together. We're going to submit an implementation plan to the CPUC by January 1st. That date doesn't even commit the local jurisdictions to pursue to moving ahead. The commitment comes when we actually purchase energy on your behalf, which would come sometime later during the year of 2019 in order to provide service by 2020. I know I'm moving very quickly, but I think most of you have heard something along these lines.
For a minute, just for a point of order, our rules of our meetings dictate we have to extend our meeting when we hit 10 o'clock, so move we extend till 10:30.
All right, motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Sorry, Rick. Real quickly, here's a timeline to a 2020 launch, and you can sort of see one of the major off-ramps here is, as I mentioned, August 15th is our cutoff for jurisdictions to join but not commit. That will allow us to do that resetting and recalibration of the rates that we indicated that we think is important for you to have as policymakers and decision makers. If those numbers come back positive, which we think would occur around September, October, then we would move forward. We would continue to move forward. If they're not favorable, then we wouldn't recommend that you move forward. We just sort of shut it down and wait for the next round and see if things and conditions improve. So I know that's a very simplified timeline, but the point is, we think it's very thorough to take a commit now, a join now and commit later approach to this. So what are the benefits of joining? Obviously, the benefits of joining and joining early is that you're at the forefront of making decisions on how the CCA is going to operate and how the rates are set and what kind of breaks you want to give to what kinds of businesses. We think that there's a lot of importance to that, and I'll just kind of leave that. It's a leadership issue as far as we're concerned, and that's how we are. As far as governance is concerned, we've had a subcommittee of our elected officials work with us, and the idea here is that a separate joint powers authority, a separate entity would be put in place, but it is one that would be initially administered and managed by WRCOG staff. We think that's the most cost-effective way to at least initially launch the CCA from an efficiency standpoint. And then at any time, if the CCA continues to move ahead and mature, if they want to hire their own staff and break out completely on their own, they certainly would have the right to do that. That would be a decision that would be made by the board. We do have a number of consultants from the private sector on board. You can see there underneath, these are the folks that would be responsible for managing the portfolio, doing the technical work, the data management, and providing billing information, and as well as the marketing. I should say that these folks are all experienced in CCAs throughout California, and so we have a lot of confidence that the experience they bring to the table is going to really confirm the savings that our feasibility study has suggested. How do cities join? It's real simple. You take action to join the JPA. You have a public hearing. The city staff impacts are about the same as they are now for your residents. Residents might might call the city, to ask questions about their bill, and they get directed to Southern California Edison. So those same calls, if they're a CCA member, they would then get sent our way. And any information that you choose to provide at the front counters for your residents, you certainly can do so. And so that's about it. I kind of articulated earlier kind of the time frames that we're operating under. We think that this is a really good opportunity for our local jurisdictions in Western Riverside County. It's an opportunity to compete. It's an opportunity to provide choices for your residents that they don't have, and it's an opportunity for you as elected leaders to be able to demonstrate local control over something that right now you don't have. So with that, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, that completes the presentation, and either myself or Barbara would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Do we have questions? Let's start with the council questions first. Mr. Comachero?
Just real quick, in terms of how it appears to our residents that choose to be members, are they going to continue to get one bill from Edison with both distribution and generation on it, or will they get two?
Yeah, no, they'll get one bill. The bill will still come from Edison.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart?
Okay, a couple questions. Okay, so are the savings, are they inclusive of all the admin costs?
Yeah.
Okay, so that 4% is, okay. And then, so basically we're telling the consumer we could save you about $6 a month if you say $72 a year?
The feasibility study actually says higher. We've kind of trimmed that down because we're trying to be extra conservative.
Okay.
So we're saying if it's a 3% savings, even though our feasibility study suggests higher, yeah, it's about $6 a month.
Okay.
Again, for doing nothing.
And so explain to me how we actually purchase power. Are we purchasing power just like Edison is purchasing power? Explain that to me.
Yeah, it's basically purchasing power in the same manner. We basically would hire our consultants. They basically act as power brokers. The savings come from the fact that Edison's contracts are locked in. They're locked in at higher prices, and the opportunities exist now for purchases of energy and renewable energy to occur at lower prices.
Even a small quantity that, like a city, because obviously Edison's buying bulk energy.
In the smaller quantities, my understanding is that's typically the case. And although you would think that there would be some benefit in bulk purchasing, so we do kind of believe that. Our feasibility study has shown that most of the cost savings with a group approach come from the administrative side of it. So rather than an individual city having its own CCA and hiring its own staff, there's some economies of scale in having one staff being able to operate the entity.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just clarify, Rick, you had mentioned, I think the regional savings was forecasted to be like 4.4%, but for Temecula specific, I think it's closer to 2.2.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
On the 4.4%, 2.2 was the $2.2 million. So that was a dollar amount, $2.2 million a year. Yeah, assuming a 2% savings.
Okay.
Yeah. If it was 4% savings, it would be double that. But we're trying to take what we think is a very conservative feasibility study and then even make it more conservative with potential outcomes. And again, we'll kind of confirm that with the follow-up reset and recalibration of the rates.
So was that $72 at the 2%?
That was at 3%.
3%.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to clarify.
Okay. I think we'll move on to public comment then.
Thank
Rick,
you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 public comments. The first speaker is Dr. Newman, to be followed by Diane Baker.
Dr. Newman, welcome back. Now you get to kick off this public comment section.
Welcome back. I didn't leave. Just way too exciting. I want to start with a presentation. Nice way to go. And he went to it going, I was to hear what he had to say. That's what I want to address that because you're going very fast. I'm not convinced. This is a used car salesman approach. There's no counter presentation to this nice, overpriced bit of information. He was absolutely wrong. I just happen to be familiar that there is a city north of here that withdrew from a community choice aggravation. They withdrew. So that was not entirely accurate. I'm going to give you some other information that he presented, basically saying, get in now. You'll miss the opportunity. If you don't get in now, you're going to miss the opportunity. Get in now. The sale is going to end in X number of days. That's not the reason to buy something or buy into something. This is huge. My real big concern is something that he didn't even mention is renewable energy, wind and solar. I would like people to pick up that responsibility themselves and not expand government. He did not emphasize the point. He stated it, along with a lot of others, about staff. Add more staff, you add more liability, you add more pensions, you add more to your taxpayers. Now, I've already recognized you folks as doing a splendid job and your comments about things. And I especially appreciate Mike Nagar. Anyway, that was good, and that was, I really appreciate that, as well as some of the other comments. Original operational opposition. Well, that wasn't defined. So you didn't know what that is. It sounds good, but you don't know what it is. This is truly overwhelming, what he's presenting, this used car salesman. And I'm saying don't buy in on it. There are downsides to this. I'm not going to elaborate on that because I'm not getting paid to come up with a very nice presentation that has, as he referenced, out-of-date information. But he would slide it in. It's a little bit out of date. It's out of date. And you need it current. Just because others are joining doesn't mean this fine city needs to buy in on it. Back in. He talked about an off-ramp. He talked about join now. It's a pig in a poke. Now, if you really think Edison is doing that badly, then truly something needs to be done about it at the PUC level. But at the PUC level, if people, cities, counties buy into this, the PUC is going to be more harsh with these little guys than they are with the big guys because they have much more clout to impact or influence this whole process. I talked about renewable energy. Anyone who knows anything about that knows that it's more expensive than fossil fuels. Now, I'm not going to get into global cooling, global warming, and now global change. But those are some of the things also that are of concern. Clearly, I'm opposed to a CCA. I'm actually opposed to, there's no position in the U.S. Constitution for regional governments. This is a regional government kind of a thing, a cooperative effort among many. You're getting into the power business. You're going to aggregate electric costs. And he always presented the positive side, not the upside in greater costs of energy. The 2.2%, yes, if energy costs remain here, but if they increase to here, well, we didn't anticipate that. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to end very soon. Thank you. You've been very courteous to me. Don't be a lemming and go off the cliff just because he's pushing you to do that. I'll conclude with that. Thank you for your attention. I truly mean that.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Diane Baker, to be followed by Greg Britton.
Actually, it's Dwayne Baker. I apologize for my atrocious handwriting. Anyways, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, I'm a proud resident of Temecula, and I think that you have done a fine job. I think Temecula is a community that others look to, and you're an envy. I support community choice aggregation because I want the choice. I don't want other members that may have spoken here already to make the choice for me. Right now, I have Southern California Edison. That's where I get my power. And if I don't like it, too bad. We have an opportunity to lower my electric bill. I want the ability to choose that if I so desire. Now, if I don't like Edison, or if I don't like community choice aggregation, and if I don't like the offer that they're giving me, I can stay with Edison just fine. But that would be my choice to make, not anyone else's. In addition, Temecula prides itself on the community that it is because you were leaders. And you have an opportunity by having membership in the Joint Powers Authority that will lead this community choice aggregation to become leaders and shape how this would happen and how it would benefit our communities. Right now, if I have a problem with who's providing my electric energy, I have to get on a plane and go to San Francisco and plead my case to the California Public Utilities Commission. But with a local JPA, it'll be one of your members would be appointed, or members from another city, meeting in Riverside, meeting here. I can come and see you, look you in the eye, and ask questions of you and get an answer. Much more responsive. And so for those reasons, I hope that you will seriously consider it. I don't think there's much of a downside for the community at this point, but we can have some choices, we can have some options, and we can have some local control. Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Greg Britton, to be followed by Carolyn Hayes.
Good evening again. We're going to get the government into the utility business. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? So that started with my skepticism of the whole scheme of the idea. I mean, government is necessary. Government even does some things reasonably well. Government is not known for doing things at lower cost. I can't think of any examples where that is true. There was no discussion here, and as I've read more about this subject, but apparently the Public Utilities Commission is going to impose a yet-to-be-determined exit fee on the CCAs because the utilities have these stranded costs. So going into this, you don't even know what that amount is going to be. Also, the individual consumers can opt in, they can opt out of the CCA. So if too many opt out, then the CCA is left with not enough customers. This is further an example of what we talked about as regional government. So you talk about local control. In Riverside, they have a utility, but the city council controls that. In Redlands, we have the city provides the water, but again, our directly elected city council controls that. In a regional government agency, it's indirect. One of you will be on the board of that, but all the people that are subject to that do not directly elect the people on that board, which then control their rates of power. There are startup costs. In San Francisco, the CCA was suspended after spending $4.1 million. And in Lancaster, they got into a long-term contract and losing $6.4 million. You remember back in the late 90s or early 2000s, the big thing was going to be, we're going to have a market in electricity, and I remember the presentations that were made. We promised this is going to reduce your rates. And if you recall, it turned out to be an economic disaster, as the state didn't know what the heck it was doing in the electric power market. So for at best case, what the salesman's promising you, a 4% savings, I would be really, really leery about getting into this business venture when this is not within your area of expertise. And lastly, of course, part of the purpose is more of this renewable alternative energy, which is more expensive. And it's still more expensive because if you want the backup facility, if you want 24/7 electricity, you need the conventional generating capacity. So already, compared to Texas, because of all these mandates in California, electricity here is 74% more expensive for residential, 115% more for commercial, and 175% more for industrial. Don't go down this route. Don't get into something you don't know. Keep government within its proper and customary bounds. Thank you.
The next speaker is Carolyn Hayes, to be followed by our last speaker, Patrice Lines. Okay, then our last speaker is Patrice Lines.
Hi, Council. I would like you to be very cautious here, please. This is our money. Don't save me $72 a year. I can get takeout. I can do with $72 whatever I want, but please don't make my choice for me. There are so many variables in this CCA. It's full of uncertainties. Solar and wind are heavily subsidized, and what happens when those subsidies go away? The ratepayers' payments increase, and it puts us in an awful position. What happens when the CCA's load forecasts on consumer growth assumptions, they're all assumptions, what if everyone opts out? And if it's so great, why do we have to opt out? Why can't we opt in? You know, there's a lot of regulatory risks, unseen changes in legislation that right now you're buying RECs to take your brown energy and greenwash it. That's all going to change in 2020, and you're not going to be able to do that anymore. I'm telling you, please think this through, because the last time I was told something had to be decided immediately, it was timeshare. And we all know what happened to that. So I would just ask you to please just walk with caution on this and really think it through. And I know you're given a deadline, but it's better to pass. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Council discussion. Anything? This is just a receive and file. Any other questions we have? All right. Seeing none, thank you all for coming out here this evening and sharing the information with us, Rick. Thank you so much. All right. Mr. Adams, we were looking at maybe, unfortunately, moving item number 23 to the next meeting.
Second.
How are we feeling about that? Deep, deep apologies to the consultants and staff on this.
We can certainly do that at your pleasure.
All right. A motion, a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Let's see. Departmental reports. Folks down on the end, unless you have something burning, raise your hand. Otherwise, we're just gonna move on. Zach, I see you smiling there.
Just saying hi.
All right. Good. Moving on. You know what? I always want to hear from our police chief, however.
You don't? I tend to have this effect on rooms often. And the numbers for the month of May did increase quite a bit. We did a lot of targeted enforcement. So we had 7,921 files that were generated during the month of May. That's including the traffic citations, 2,149, with an additional 118 parking tickets. Officers investigated 79 traffic accidents, were major accidents to minor fender benders, 89 DUI investigations, and our commercial enforcement officer issued 80 citations. Part of the increase in calls for service, we did some targeted enforcement with the homeless, 97 calls for service, which included panhandling, loitering, trespassing calls, and they also did 29 outreach files. We reunited a young woman with her small children with her family in Florida, which was a successful thing for last month. And then some of the events that are coming up, Coffee with a Cop. So, Mr. Mayor, you're invited to attend this if you'd like. We're going to be over at the Starbucks on Temecula Parkway and Meadows on July 12th at 8 o'clock to meet with our community. And then the second one is going to be another active shooter training. And again, Mr. Mayor, Council, you're all invited to attend this, the 27th, here at the city from 7 to 9. And our first one sold out, and I think this one is very close to selling out also. So that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. I'll be at both.
Wonderful.
The event tomorrow and the Coffee with a Cop, because two of my favorite things, cops and
Coffee,
coffee.
Right.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
City Manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, I just wanted to make the community aware of this magazine that was amazingly put together by the interns in our office. And I know the council got copies of this, but it's available in the city manager's office. But just real quickly, what this does is this outlines everything that we do for youth development and workforce development in the city of Temecula, which I'm really not aware of any city that does this. Let me just name it real quick. College and vocational fair, future physician leaders, global citizens, intern appreciation lunch, internships and fellowship, junior women's STEM program, leadership academy, medical scribe, summer food service, summer legal scholars, vocational programs, young women's career conference, youth entrepreneur, and youth innovators program. Truly amazing. Charles Walker deserves a ton of credit, and his staff and the interns themselves put this together. So this is our marketing piece. Appreciate their work. So,
fantastic. Mr. City Attorney.
Closed session, but we have no matters to report from closed session.
All right. And with that, how do we feel about adjourning? All right. Well, we will see you all next time. Thank you for joining us.